Pistol formation, play action. Shapen looks down the field. He throws down the field. He's got Monterey Baldwin. Bears got a touchdown. 47 yards.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Bennett under center. He fakes to Milton and walks into the end zone.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Anderson goes in motion. What a play by Richardson. A ball fake to keep it alive. And he's got a man alone in the back of the end zone in Jaquavion Frazier's. Are you kidding me?
Sikkim 365 Radio is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Worthy standing on. He's on 35.
Blocked, swallowed, engulfed, picked up, and it's Robinson! Keelan Robinson, Texas on the board!
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Boyd to snap, Bramlett to hold to send it to free football. Snap, spot, blocked! Yeah! 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 It's blocked! Shaheed Brown got his mitt on it! Fire up the war chant and plant the spear! Nose wind! Nose wind! Mike Norvell, you have your signature win!
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Well, we finally have more than just a handful of games from what they called week 0 or whatever. College football came back with a bang. You just heard the blocked extra point that would have sent LSU and Florida State to overtime is one of the many games that we will discuss this afternoon. 365 Sports, Sikkim 365 Radio as well. There was a weekend, wasn't there? My goodness, some of the teams like Georgia and Alabama flexed their muscles. Ohio State handled their business with Notre Dame, pushed a lot. Florida, of course, with a huge win against Utah. You just heard again that Florida State and LSU finish. So much to get to. What, in your opinion, Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, what was the biggest win among anybody, the biggest win in college football over the weekend?
I would say it's Florida beating Utah. I mean, I know that they're at home in the Swamp, but that's the number 7 team in the country coming in to a team with a new coach, with a quarterback who's playing, who knows he's a starter for the first full season, hasn't done that yet on that full scale. Anthony Richardson showed his potential and what he can do. That highlight on that 2-point conversion was in the open as well. I think that, to me, was the biggest win of the opening weekend, because that was just an out-and-out, for sure, upset. Like some of the ones that happened, you can maybe make an argument, but that was a huge win for Billy Napier to start out.
I mean, I think it was an upset. I don't think it was like that big of an upset, though. I mean, I'll agree with you that it could be the biggest game, but I don't think it was like, App State beating Michigan or anything. There was plenty of people. No, I know I'm going a little over the top there, but there was plenty of people, including our guest on Friday, that thought Florida would win this game. It being in the Swamp for one, just the fact that a lot of people were polishing up Utah to be like this, this team that was just going to go in there and have their way and was an automatic no-brainer. I agree with you that I think Florida probably had the best win, but I don't think in the long run it was really all that surprising, even if it was still an upset. So I'd have that there. I think Arkansas's win over Cincinnati was really nice. Cincinnati made it made it closer than maybe it was expected to be, at least early on. It looked like it might get a little out of hand, and Cincinnati came back and, kept it close. But that was a nice win for the Razorbacks, and I think Houston's win over UTSA. Yeah. That wasn't one where, they beat somebody they weren't supposed to beat, or it was some shocking result. But I mean, the game itself was pretty crazy, and Houston was looking a little worse for wear there for a little while, and they were able to fight back and beat the Roadrunners like they were supposed to. But I had to deal with the big time Alamo Dome crowd, and it's a lot going against them. So yeah, those are three that stand top of mind.
All right, those are some good ones to discuss. I didn't get back really and have a chance to watch much of college football at all. Paul and I will get into that a little bit later on today. If you think Utah had a tough weekend in Gainesville and getting out because they were delayed the entire next day, just got back, I think, sometime late last night, slowly but surely, or even possibly some today, you ought to hear the weekend that we had on our trip to West Texas. But that's the bottom of the barrel of what matters. Here are some bangers. We're going to go back to what happened because that's what we want to do. We'll take your calls in the next segment as well. Bangers this week, Houston at Texas Tech. Kitley and the offense at Tech, they were just rolling along. Houston with the dramatic win against UTSA. How about the game between Iowa State, Iowa, where the Hawkeyes scored 7 points, and it wasn't a touchdown. Two safeties and a field goal.
Yeah, and the two safeties were in the third quarter and the fourth quarter.
That's crazy.
That's embarrassing. I mean, I know everybody has fun with that, and Iowa every year. It's that tradition of just how vanilla and bland they are. But that's embarrassing. Come on, dude. Seriously, that's the best that you can muster at Iowa at this point. I mean, really, come on.
Yeah, they are.
But they'll be 8, 9.
I know, but come on. I mean, what are we really doing here?
I will say this, and I mean, no disrespect for Kurt Ferentz and what he's done, but watching that team year in and year out is like walking into a restaurant and they only have grape nuts. If you walk, what would you have? Oh, we have grape nuts.
I would take grape nuts in a heartbeat if that was, But
I get it, but it's so when you're watching it, well, I mean, there's going to be fiber, so I guess.
I mean, there's no way you enjoy that. I mean, you enjoy the wins and you enjoy the consistency of it and all that. And yeah, Kirk Ferentz is an incredible head coach, but 7-3 over South Dakota State. I mean, are you freaking kidding me? Come on, dude. That's a game that I don't care how vanilla you are offensively. You can muster more than 7 points, and they didn't even do it offensively.
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
Tim Vermeer is a great fan of Iowa. He always is poking at me because I love Nebraska no matter what, and it's not like they were all that beautiful over the weekend either. But we have to hear from him on the chat room at some point just to see what he has to say. But Iowa State, Iowa, that's another one. Bama at Texas, that's where game day apparently will be. Baylor at Brigham Young late Saturday night.
Yeah. Going back to Iowa real quick, there's a fantastic book I recommend every football fan read called The Big Scrum, and it's about football in the early part of the 20th century and how it was nearly made illegal, and Teddy Roosevelt got all of the people like Amos Alonzo Stagg and people like that and Walter Camp in a room and said, we're going to make rules that basically line up across. You can't make up rules before the game, so it's safe. We're going to have some precautions. Well, I think Kirk Ferentz, had he been in that meeting, would have really slowed the process down. Or he didn't get the memo that there's new rules.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to do it a little bit old school. That to me is that's not even fun football. But Iowa fans, I love it, I'm sure. I mean, most of them have to, right? I would think, and you can't argue with the results ultimately. But 7-3, and that didn't even come from a touchdown. That's 4 points with safeties in back-to-back quarters to end the game to win. What is that?
Yeah,
what even is that?
I couldn't believe it. I, again, missed a lot of Saturday because of our trip back from West Texas and then the pregame and then much more that would happen after that as well. So those are some of the highlights. Florida, Paul, congratulations last night. It was two logos, both unranked, but I like what I saw. The Florida State quarterback, to me, has got that blank in his neck. He just kind of makes plays. The defense made enough. That was not the prettiest game either, but what an incredible finish. 99 yards LSU after the fumble at the one that would have put the game away, and then they have the extra point block.
Mike Norvell almost had his second big what are you doing moment last night after Jacksonville State. Now, that one's a little bit better than Jacksonville State, but even still, it kind of falls in the same category. I've determined that Mike Norvell is the best coach in America or one of the best in the middle 50 minutes of a game. In the first 5 minutes and the last 5 minutes, he's abjectly terrible. But they held on and won last night. They got super lucky at times, but the game plan was really good.
They played well. Congratulations. It was a game on national TV.
They played well.
Just because they got a win doesn't mean he can't say they didn't do some things wrong. Let's not pretend that was a great brand of football by either side last night.
It was, I told Garrett last night, it was like watching a Kleenex and a paper towel wrestle. I mean, that's what it was. I mean, they're the same, like, it was the Spider-Man meme, that's what it was. Yeah. Jordan Travis is a better version of Jaden Daniels. The offensive line at Florida State's like a year ahead of where the LSU one is, but they're kind of going through similar things. Skill positions are good, but nobody can get the ball. There's a lot.
They won, though.
They won.
They did.
They won, though.
It would have been brutal
great.
if they not.
LSU feels like a team that's like constructing a building, but they're only like, they've got like the skeleton.
They're putting the steel in the ground.
There's just, you can tell it's completely unfinished and it's not even close to being where they want it to be, but like they have to roll it out there right now and like let people, you know what I'm saying, Garrett?
It was like a last chance U roster. It was bad football, man.
Yeah.
Bad football.
Yeah, and then Jaden Daniels, though.
That was the only offense they had.
It was. You're right. Neither team really ran the ball well, although the quarterback at Florida State got loose a few times and gives them that little extra half a second or two with his legs and ability to throw the ball down. I like him. I like him a lot. Tennessee at Pitt this week. Pitt coming off the win against the Mountaineers. Kentucky at Florida this week. And UTSA goes to Army in their second week. And then next week they have Texas as well. Couple of Big 12 games to put up a note. It's Arizona State at Oklahoma State. Kansas plays at West Virginia. It's a Big 12 game. And Missouri plays at K-State. Kansas State, of course, with a shutout win to open up their year. So Florida with the best win. Who had the worst loss?
Wait a second. Going back to the Big 12, what were those games that you just said?
Missouri at K-State, Kansas at West Virginia, Arizona State at Oklahoma State.
I know, but what's the category that you were pointing out?
No, I just was throwing them out there. I just said just kind of like, here are the bangers. And then I gave a couple of the other games nationally that might have some implications. And then there's just, I wanted to just mention a couple of the Big 12 teams. And who
okay, I was just wondering if that was like the special games or the full schedule, because it was just like half the schedule. Okay, so that's all I was wondering.
I've already mentioned Baylor and Texas.
I got you.
All right, and then Friday, by the way, UCF will play at home against Louisville as an incoming Big 12 team. Who had the worst loss?
Virginia Tech, probably losing to ODU. I think that's a pretty bad one.
And losing some stuff in the locker room, too.
Yeah, but I think that was a pretty bad one. And there were almost a couple more in the ACC. NC State almost lost to East Carolina. I don't know,
how about North Carolina in that game?
Yeah, Virginia Tech went to ECU a few years ago and lost. And then NC State, again, almost did it, if not for the kicker missing those kicks. And then, of course, Appalachian State had a 40-point fourth quarter against Mac Brown. And if Mac Brown was anybody other than who he is, the papers and the websites in Chapel Hill would be going just bats over him.
40 points, 62 points in the fourth quarter in that game. 40 by Appalachian State, and again they almost able to pick up and just kind of slam the door on Carolina. And there's always going to be a game or 3 or 4 like that in the opening weekend as well.
Yeah, I'd go with Oregon. That was flat out embarrassing. I don't care that it was Georgia. For all of the discussion surrounding the Pac-12 right now, and Oregon and the Big Ten and all of that, and how much of a darling they would be, or how many eyeballs they would bring, or whatever about their brand and all that. Yeah, I mean, we finally rolled the football out there, and Georgia's going to do that to most teams, but that was just even worse than expected because of the fact you also had the tie-ins with Dan Lanning. You had the realignment discussion. Here's Oregon. Like, we deserve to be in the Big Ten. They just go out there and just get absolutely thrashed by Georgia. But not that one had anything to do with the other. It just was interesting to see how lopsided that game was, because it was built up to be a big non-con game. Even if most people knew Georgia would win and probably win comfortably, that was just never even close.
No, it wasn't. The chat room will take calls here in a moment after the first break. We'll also hear from Edgar Thompson, who covers the state of Florida for the Orlando Sentinel, especially on the Gators win at 3:45. Tim Brando will join us today at 4:30. And then also today, Travis Roeder will jump in with a segment just after 5 o'clock to look at Baylor and also Brigham Young and flashback to their win. And they did what they should have done against Albany Craig had, by the way, at night, he goes home or the afternoon, whatever, and does like just some quick points, just right off the phone or right there, done. And then so many others. Sam, Brian, Travis, Colt, Jack, just constant summaries on the site if you haven't gone as a premium member to Sikkim365.com. Here's from Paxton. I don't know if I'm going to read this quote, but that Steve Sarkisian was discussing Alabama today at his weekly press conference. He said he's worried about he's worried about being in Dallas on December 3rd and not worried about Alabama because they're not in the conference, basically. I get that. I mean, you kind of set yourself up with that by saying, you could get blown out, which a lot of people think might happen. And then again, if you do, you turn around and you still have a chance to win the Big 12 championship if you get better each week over and over again. I thought Cincinnati, Arkansas was an entertaining game. Mm-hmm. We watched it a lot today, I guess Saturday when we were doing our pregame show. I thought the Bearcats were always they started a little sluggish. They were always like one play away, but Arkansas with just more oomph and eventually won the game. But I thought that was entertaining as well.
I think for Cincinnati, what they're missing a little bit is, not a little bit, a lot of bit. Right now, at least what Desmond Ridder brought to that offense as far as leadership and athleticism and all that. And Ben Bryant was good, but I mean, you got to replace the guy who is the best quarterback you've ever had. And it's not easy to do. I mean, it's not easy for anybody to do. I'll say this: Florida State's had two, and you can argue based on statistics who the best one is, whether it's Charlie Ward or Jameis Winston. But it's been really hard for FSU to replace Jameis Winston. It's been really hard for Florida to replace Tim Tebow. Really, really hard. It's been really hard for a lot of these programs to do it. So you have the best guy you've ever had. If you've got statue guy and he leaves, you don't just get the next statue guy.
No, yeah, Ritter was really, really good for them, and he's now gone, and so they try to move on without him. And our good friend Steve Shook, who's a Cincinnati fan out of Ohio, sent me a text. He didn't watch football over the weekend. I couldn't believe that because Cincinnati, you knew would be a very good game with Arkansas. You know why he said he didn't watch it? He didn't want to hear how so many different players who made plays or whatever, the constant so-and-so a 6'4", 293-pound transfer, or a 6'1", 215-pound transfer. He's kind of put off by all of this, and so that's fine. That's Steve's opinion, but he did send me a text that he didn't watch college football at all over the weekend, and he's a big Cincinnati fan. I did, whenever I could, and I thought it was an incredible, great, full weekend of college football.
I watched a ton of it, and that didn't bother me, but to each their own. Everybody's got their thing, but yeah, I didn't pick up on that or notice that very much. I mean, it's just a part of the game now, transfers. So yeah, it can be mildly annoying when it's just a roster that was put together in the last 6 months basically versus guys that you get to know and that are developed throughout your program for 3-4 years at a time. But there's still some of that. It's not like it's all transfers unless you go down to a Texas State or something like that, where I don't think they're recruiting high school kids was the big thing, right, with Jake Spavital. But outside of that, I think everybody's probably a pretty, solid mixture of their own homegrown and then, yes, absolutely what they get out of the transfer portal. But yeah, there are going to be some people that whether it's the transfer portal or whether it's NIL or whatever, whether it's expansion or whether it's, whatever college football is in 5 years, there's going to be people turned away, and that's why they've got to be very smart and calculate. They can't just bank on they're just always going to have the fans that they have. I do think that they have to be wary of how many changes there are and how that affects the fans they've had along the way and how they need to grow and create more fans. And, I think a weekend like these past 4 days is a great way to grow your fandom and grow your fan base. But I don't know that they ever really capitalize on it the way that they should, the way that a league like the NFL does. And I don't know who set the game up tonight, but to have Clemson, Georgia Tech as the capper to this incredible run of games, knowing the state that Georgia Tech's in right now, I don't know. I just feel like there could have been a better cherry on top of this first weekend, but maybe they'll make it interesting somehow. I highly doubt it, but I am very curious to see, Clemson's QBs and just see them, kick off the season. To each their own, like I said, and there's going to be things that people like and don't like.
Clemson, Georgia Tech to wrap it up, and then the new polls will come out from the first week or two of college football. We'll see what happens with that. By the way, our show tonight at 10:30 will be on the CW channel. Not all 3 hours, but a condensed version. Emery Winter, Paul Catalina, and the folks at the CW channel, KWTX, will be putting together a show that will be what we have today, and every weeknight for as long as we hope will go forever, that will be a condensed version of what we do today. That comes up tonight and every weeknight at 10:30 on the CW channel. We appreciate Josh Young and, again, his staff for that as well. Now, here are a couple of tweets that I want to get into, and then break, and we'll come back with your calls. Here's the first one from our good friend Bob Thompson. This was from what happened on Friday when Grayson and Craig hosted the show on Friday, which was a huge day in college football with the college football expansion announcement. The presidents were sick and tired of the inertia from the commissioner level, and they took things over themselves. Keenum, Mississippi State, indicated the school presidents had concluded they needed to give ADs or athletic administrators and conference commissioners direction. And guess what? They took control of that because they just didn't like what they saw. And you also, I don't think there's any question, Grayson and Craig went into this in depth, but we can also go with Bob Thompson here. Didn't that just end any kind of speculation of the Super 2?
Potentially. I mean, in some, like for right now, I mean, I don't think, like here I see a bunch of people freaking out that are anti-playoff. And by the way, the anti-playoff, like, you know, when you say anti-16 and anti-32, like I'm right there with you, but I'm seeing some anti-6 talk or anti-12 talk. And, you know, initially I was a little bit unsure, but the more I think about it, the more the reasons being given for why 12 is a bad idea are awful reasons. Like really awful explanations for why an expanded playoff is a bad idea. In fact, I don't think I've seen one really staunch anti-expansion person really make that great of an argument for why it wouldn't be very fun and why it's better right now or another way was better than what we're going to get. To me, it's just a lot of people who like the way that it's very elite and set up and it's only these four and nobody else is allowed. And, hey, it's almost like you don't deserve to be here because you just don't stand a chance anyway. Well, how do you know I don't stand a chance? Well, that one time, 1 year, that one small team played that one big team and it turned out like this, so every time it's going to turn out like that. Yeah, but what about the incredible upsets that can happen? Oh, well, that doesn't happen often enough. Yeah, well, what about the fact that my team will get in the playoff? Oh, well, you won't like it. How do you know I won't like it? Oh, I'm just telling you won't like it. You won't like it as much as winning a conference or a bowl game. Why? Winning my conference gets me into the playoff. Yeah, but you still won't like it because you'll get kicked in the first round. Yeah, but I don't know, going to the Cotton Bowl and doing that's cool, but if you're telling me I'm going to the Cotton Bowl and playing somebody and it's a playoff spot in a sport where they hang banners for any reason whatsoever, they create national championships out of thin air, you're telling me they're not going to celebrate going to the playoff just because they might get spanked by Alabama? Bull crap. They will love going to the playoff, no matter what team you put in there.
And if they get spanked.
And if they'll still enjoy it. Like, it's just one little sliver. I've been just boiling all weekend over the anti-playoff points, and I'm just not buying it. I think 12 is fine. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I think to say that 4 is better somehow to avoid blowouts or to tell people they won't like something is total crap, and I'll debate anybody on
Garrett,
that.
give me the Barrett Solly. Not yet. All right, this got Craig going. And in his Good, the Bad, and the Ugly column that he writes on Sikkim 365, I'm not sure, Paul, if you saw this or not. Number 3 just throttled number 11. But, yeah, let's let more teams in the college football playoff. That's this elitist.
Worst
first of all,
number 11 and number 3 are based on educated guesses, not anything that's happened
preseason rankings that are usually decided by logos
by
or
people like him.
The 85 Jimmies and Joes on either one of those rosters on scholarship, we haven't seen them play together in this format and in this grouping yet for anyone until the last 2 weeks, depending on when you started. So yeah, those are all just number 3, number 11. Yeah, I think Oregon will be number 11, but you don't know. I mean, you don't know.
All right, so put that up again. Put that up again.
Like, I understand that he's an SEC guy. I mean, just check out his timeline. And I don't want to, make this a personal thing because he's not the one I'm necessarily singling out, but this was just an awful tweet. Like, this is an awful opinion, in my opinion. I think this is a garbage take. I think it's disingenuous. I think it's SEC slanted. And I think it's just not coming from a place of really being honest with college football fans out there. I think this is an agenda type of tweet. I think the follow-up where he tried to go tattle to somebody else who's got an anti-expansion take as well was just kind of kind of like, oh, I riled everybody up. And it's like, no, it's your opinion sucked, dude. That was a bad opinion that most people don't agree with. I hate how on social media you say something that's not wrong or not very good, and people go after you, and then you're like, oh, everybody's sensitive. It's like, no, everybody's reacting to the dumb thing that you said. We're all fine, but that opinion kind of sucks. And so, I saw, a lot of anti-expansion talk, a lot of anti-playoff this or that. And again, I'm not for, the Mike Leach theory of let's 64. I'm not for 16. I don't even really love 12, but I like 12 a hell of a lot more than I like 4.
Yeah.
And I'm down for some more blowouts. We just watched a full weekend of every type of game you could imagine. We watched a bad football game with an incredible ending last night. And you mean to tell me college football fans are going to be dissuaded by the fact their team might actually have a chance to be in a playoff because that team might be in a blowout game like they are probably on a pretty regular basis outside of, a couple of programs every year?
Do you know who's against expansion mostly? Are people who are
elitist?
Yeah, but big-time Super 2 people, usually. And not even those conferences, but people who are fans of that because in their mind, they're like, look, I've got it great as an SEC guy. Every year, it's going to kind of go because this narrative can play out. But if you expand it, you create more opportunity for the SEC to lose. Whether they will or not depends to be happen, but they know that.
All right.
So they want to fight against it.
And
Here's
one more point.
also why you do it. And go to Bob Thompson. Go ahead, Craig.
One
Bob
more
Thompson,
point.
Go ahead.
I saw somebody say, oh, you guys are going to hate it when it's all 4 SEC schools in the Final Four. You know what? If it's 4 SEC schools in the Final Four and a 12-team playoff, hats effing off to them. We will celebrate them and say, well freaking done, SEC. You got all 4 teams into the Final Four. That's what we would do. We would probably hate it just because there's that spite of, we got to hear all the SEC stuff. But what would be any different than now? What is ESPN going to talk about them a lot if it's all 4 teams in the playoff? Boy, that'd be different from what we do already. Oh, my gosh, would Alabama and Georgia be in there with a couple of other SEC teams? If that's how it turns out, great. They earned it because it wouldn't just be a bunch of suits voting on who the best 4 is. They would have actually become the best 4. So, it's not like you're going to get those top 4 votes and it's going to be, it's Alabama, Georgia, Florida, and LSU. There's our top 4. No, you'd actually have to go, beat Cincinnati in a round 1 game on their campus to advance to be in the, you'd have to do it and earn it for that to happen. And if they did it, hats off. Like I said, I'm not anti-playoff because it might be pro SEC, at a Final Four. That's ridiculous.
In fact, I will even applaud them even more that they would earn all 4 of those spots,
Exactly.
which they might. Here's one quick note from Bob Thompson. We need a break. We come back. Your calls, 254-339-1122. The current college football deal is $470 a year. $470 million a year for 3 games. Bob Thompson, who's been on this show now 3 or 4 times, he thinks it could be north of $2 billion. The current deal is 12 years old, very stale. College football playoff probably gets $1 billion on the current 3 games. 8 more games, even though early rounds should be easily add another $1 billion with new bidders. Conference championship games worth more as winners get automatic bids to the college football playoff. All right, we got a break. Come back with your calls, opinion, feedback. Who do you think had the best, most quality win? Who had the worst loss? What was your biggest take from the college football weekend? 254-339-1122, 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. Your hometown grocery store with a full-fledged, constantly just churning out incredible fresh bread and also kolaches and desserts and sweets and all that other stuff. And then also a butcher shop with all of the best steak cuts you could want. Baylor just had a first home game. Next one's going to be against Texas State a week from Saturday. Wherever you think you need to go to get your tailgate food, brisket, tri-tip, and more, sausage, chicken, whatever, it's Waco Custom Marketplace. The Bauer family does a great job. That's where I get, when I call in each month, I get my my orders of bone-in ribeyes, big, thick, 1.25 inch, 1.5 bone-in ribeyes, and huge, thick fillets as well. And if you want bacon around them, you can get that as well. It's Waco Custom Marketplace. Charcoal, all the seasoning, what you need. 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Looking for a great job with great pay and awesome benefits? Genco FCU is hiring. As a longtime Waco employer, Genco focuses on what matters most in our employees' lives, like pay incentives, bonuses, benefits, 401k plans, paid time off, advancement opportunities, medical, prescription, dental, and vision insurance, as well as short and long-term disability. Come join our incredible team today and make Genco your career that will work for you. Apply at gencofcu.org or at any branch location.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgin Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season, and BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgin Ford.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Miles Thurman, a super chat. A lot of what we were just discussing. We'll get to you. Thank you for the $5 super chat on the chat room, 365 Sports on YouTube. Paul, the calls.
Let's go to BJ in Denver. Wants to talk a little LSU, FSU. You're on 365 Sports and Sikkim 365 Radio. BJ, you there? Hello, BJ.
All right, let's put him on hold if you can. Let's see if we can go to Chris.
Yeah, let's go to Chris here. And Chris, you are on Sikkim 365 Sports.
Well, this is great, isn't it?
All right. I think I know the issue here.
Okay, let's go to the chat room. From Miles Thurman, I don't understand the water down the regular season argument. There are still only 12 spots out of 131 FBS schools. The regular season still matters.
Yeah, I mean, it does. And I don't know, maybe I need to talk slower so people like Go Black can understand the difference between anger and passion. It's something I'm passionate to talk about with the playoffs, so I'll spell it out a little bit more like that. For people like yourself to be able to understand. Nothing about difference of opinion on playoff makes me angry, because why would you get angry about that? But certainly it's frustrating to see angles like, oh, well, you just wouldn't enjoy it. That's why we shouldn't have an expanded playoff. Really? How do you know that? Oh, I'm just telling you that you wouldn't. You won't enjoy the blowouts. Well, how do you know there will be blowouts? Oh, because I'm just telling you why. You know, it's the reason for being against it, you know, and watering it down, I just fail to see that, because there might be a couple more blowouts that waters down the regular season. I don't think so. I think it makes, like last night, you know, I saw some people immediately want to go jump to the playoff part of that. I wasn't thinking about the playoff at all with LSU and FSU last night. Were y'all?
No.
Like nothing this weekend, other than just some of the fuel that was still there from Friday's story, I ever thought about the championship playoff.
At all. And so, you know, you have a game like that, and I'm hearing playoff talks around. It's like, how was that watered down by the playoff? I don't think so at all. I mean, if anything, you know, the team that's on the losing end of that, LSU, in the scenario that some people want, LSU would have to absolutely just run the table to have any chance whatsoever. And even then, that might not be enough. Do you think they're going to be better by the end of the year?
Yep.
Do you think teams get better as the season goes along? Do you think teams prove something outside of week one?
Barring LSU, they lost the defensive lineman or whoever, he's out. Yeah, but there's a handful will not get better because they're just crushed with injuries, but everybody gets better.
Sure, but that will weed itself out.
Yes.
So why are we putting so much emphasis on a week one game that's like basically do or die, to where you have to run the table? LSU might take another, you know, mulligan, and they're not going to be in the playoff this year. They're not going to be in a 14 playoff. But like if it was a 12 team, you still have that hope after last night of like, we can get better. The odds are really long and are not in our favor, but there's a chance that we could be on the outside looking in if we just run but there's something to still chew on there. It's not over. Like it is for some teams the moment that they have their first loss. And it's not over for everybody with their first loss. There are some that do have exceptions, and they can lose a couple of games. But that's not across the board. I just don't see how in any way, you know, you're coming out of this weekend and what we saw and all of the craziness and going, I want less of this at the end of the year when these teams are all better. That makes no sense to me. Even if, yes, Alabama and Georgia will be the heavy favorites, but can we just see? Can we see somebody other than Ohio State or Notre Dame or Clemson have the opportunity? And yes, I know Michigan and Cincinnati, and there are new teams on occasion. But, you know, I think that teams gain a heck of a lot more from getting a playoff bid. They can hang a banner, hey, playoff appearances, such and such, like they do with bowls. And on occasion, yeah, go toe-to-toe with the school they otherwise would never see, and maybe even knock them off. And that does a heck of a lot more than just winning a Holiday Bowl every once in a while. And then you win that game, and that same team is, oh, well, they didn't care about that game anyways.
From Stephen on what you said about teams getting better. Did we not see how Georgia improved after just the 10-3 win against Clemson last year? Let's relax a bit of the week one overreacting. Paul.
All right. BJ, let's try this again. You're on Second 365 Sports, 365 Radio.
Hey, guys, can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah, we got you now.
Hey, how's it going? This is Jalo, by the way. I wanted to speak on that Florida State game quickly, and more in particular, Norvell, right? I think, like Paul said, Norvell from Sunday to Friday, he is top tier, man. That guy comes with energy. He knows what he's doing. It's just on Saturdays, in the beginning of the game, and in like high-intensity clutch times of the game, he just loses his mind. I can't explain it, but last night, that game should have been a 20-point game, and we just let them boys, in the game. But, and I don't know how you guys saw the game, but week one was great. It ended the week with a great game, and go Noles.
Thank you, Jalou.
Did you pay him?
No.
Thank you for the call.
No,
Appreciate
thank you for being the first one out.
254-339-1122.
That's how I saw it. And look, I really like. I know sometimes you hear I like Mark Norvell and I like what he's doing. It's just that you can see that right now that part like Sunday to Friday and the first 5 and the last 5, it's just not where he is yet. Now, can he get better as a coach? You know what? I can tell you, I watched Scott Drew be every kind of different head coach you could be at a basketball program now, and now he's elite. So let the people grow a little bit, you know? But I think that's where you got to, step back and let them grow.
That's a great analogy. An incredible. Mansa Musa, by the way, $2 super chat. Lines with the issues with the call-in line. We just took one, but may want to call back 254-339-1122.
Yeah. All right, let's go back to Chris. Chris should work now.
Hey, guys, how are you?
Doing great.
Hey, okay, so Paul, great win by Florida State, so I'm really happy for you, man. The best win, I thought, and I know I'm kind of a homer here, but the Pitt-West Virginia game really lived up to the hype, so I'm very happy about that. The worst loss had to have been the Pac-12. With Oregon and Utah losing, when everyone was watching Pac-12 looking for some kind of leadership, and their TV contract hopes are out the window at this point. I think they have to be the biggest loser. Thanks, guys.
USC put up a bunch of points against Rice. They should. That's the Lincoln Riley team. They look good doing it, but we'll find out as the season goes on. But, yeah, Utah losing, Oregon getting blown out. It wasn't the best start for the Pac-12. They need a couple of quality wins here to turn things around pretty quickly.
Well, I mean, even with USC, is that really –
No, you don't
Pac-12.
know. Yeah.
I mean, it is technically for a couple more years, but everybody knows where their eyes are and where they're headed in the near future. So, yeah, even the team that you can really prop up and be like, go Pac-12 is the team that's decided to leave you in the middle of the night. So, not a great opening weekend for them. I think certainly expansion has fueled more of the, let's judge this conference a certain type of way and kind of stack them up. And I know we do that during bowl season all the time. There's always that graphic of how conferences fared in bowl games, but there is a whole lot more conference talk thanks to realignment. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of how the Pac-12 sheds the narrative and how they navigate moving forward, especially if some of their non-LA brands are struggling a little bit. It's not gonna be very good for them in the long run this season, but long term, yeah, I'm still very curious on how that works out, especially if the ones that you were kind of hanging your hats on, the Oregons, the Washingtons, they're still sort of in limbo, and if they're not even playing all that well right now, getting blown out on opening weekend, that's just kind of a double or triple whammy.
Real quick, Steven, and then a call. You guys think Oregon was preseason overrated or Georgia just that good? Both.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean Oregon can't turn the corner, but both.
Well, they're not going to. And look, they're not going to play Georgia every week.
No.
So they'll look better when they're not playing.
Can you imagine your season schedule comes out and you have 12 consecutive weeks against Georgia?
When they're not playing the Transformers, they'll look great. All right, Brett in Idaho. Thanks for your call. You're on Signum 365 Radio.
Hey guys, love the show. I just real quick in terms of games this weekend, Georgia, Oregon. Man, Georgia is probably the scariest team in college football right now. But little side thing here, just with the CFP announcement, and everything. I really want to get the campaign moving to get San Diego State instead of Utah. I'm a BYU fan. Let's get San Diego State in. The BYU Utah. What's it called? The rivalry between BYU and Utah is a little bit toxic. The Holy War gets a little bit too aggressive, I think. And as well, Utah doesn't really bring that much to market for the Big 12, whereas San Diego State, you're adding a Southern California market. I mean, that's huge. Now we'd have Southern California and Florida. We could have a UCF San Diego State game. But anyway, just wanted to push that campaign there. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Brett. Appreciate the call.
Brett.
That was a tough loss. San Diego State got thumped. Arizona with a nice win. Boise State lost to Oregon State in another game out in Mountain and or West Coast time.
I really like Jaden DeLaura. I thought that was a great transfer pickup, and Jacob Cowan was excellent at UTEP, and now he's back home in Arizona. He's a Maricopa kid and was able to transfer back to his home state, and I think that's just a really great kind of probably under the radar for most because it's not like the big 5-star, but those are two really good players, and I think they're gonna create a lot of fun there in Arizona this season. So yeah, as far as BYU Utah, I mean that's what I've noticed too. Like it's super toxic. Like it is so toxic. It's not like the fun kind of rivalry. It is toxic. And I think a lot of Big 12 fans would probably use that word to describe the Utah fans they've come across on social media over this whole expansion realignment saga. They do seem to be kind of upfront and proud as the most abrasive, type of fan, almost like Texas Tech in a way, but like even more extreme and kind of just proud of being nasty. So yeah, I'm kind of right there with you in terms of, or at least I think that a majority of Big 12 fans, at least the ones on Twitter, if you were to poll them, I think a lot of them would probably agree with you. I think they'd say, yeah, we'd rather have somebody other than Utah. I don't know if that's how the presidents and, ADs and all of them are thinking, because they are probably looking at more than just, Twitter stuff. But yeah, that's an interesting kind of question for I think anybody to answer if they're weighing the pros and cons of expansion is like who brings what, and certainly San Diego State is an attractive alternative that's maybe not top of mind or as big right now, but if you're looking down the line who's got some potential, it could be them. So yeah, that's an interesting kind of little debate to have.
Selfishly, I'd love to go to San Diego.
Yeah, sure.
All right, Paul, one more call, then a break. Edgar Thompson of the Orlando Sentinel will join us to talk Florida after this.
Timothy in Lubbock, you're on SicEm 365 Radio. Thanks for your call.
Yeah, how y'all doing? I just wanted to touch on the new Big 12 and say something real quick on what y'all are discussing and talking about when it comes to realignment. What I'm thinking is when I look at the new Big 12 and the teams that are coming in, I really, really think people are sleeping on when it comes to creating a powerhouse. All we talk about is Texas. As a matter of fact, I'm a Florida Gator fan, so I just want y'all to know that.
All right.
But congrats.
I really think that people they're not really thinking about what can happen if BYU mess around and win 2 or 3 Big 12 championships and maybe 2 national championships, what BYU would do for the perception of the Big 12. Or Houston. If Houston comes and turns into Oklahoma, what Oklahoma's been in the Big 12, because now they get to keep all their resources from North Shore High School and all these different things, people fail to realize you can become great. And now Houston ain't got to worry about being a little school. Now they got the money and the resources to keep all that talent at Houston. And the Cougars can become a powerhouse. See, I'm thinking in a bigger picture than what other people are thinking. They thinking just the traditional powerhouses. But I'm thinking about all it takes is 2 or 3 years of dominance before somebody can start really saying that you're a powerhouse. So that's how I feel about that. I'm going to let y'all get back to it. But I really think people are sleeping on these new teams that's coming in the Big 12.
I think
the last thing is I think it's going to be BYU running the conference, then Houston, and then Baylor and Oklahoma State. And I think that's how it's going to go in the next 5 years. In 5 years, Houston will be running the conference, and I don't even think it's going to be even close. Once they get to keep all their talent, get the money for their resources, and all these different things, I think that's it. That's how we open it.
Appreciate the call from Lubbock.
I appreciate y'all. I just wanted y'all to realize that, and other people, to stop sleeping on these new teams that's coming in and what it can really be bringing to the Big 12 for the future.
Thanks for the call.
Like,
we got to move on.
Talking about Oklahoma and Texas all the time.
Thanks for the call.
Thank you.
They're still going to lose some battles in Houston, the teams that also do well in Houston. But I get your point. And I agree that now Brigham Young with a couple of national titles, I do agree. Brigham Young's a good football team. Baylor's about to find out all about that. They played last year, competitive game, and now they go to Provo. I do think some of these incoming teams with UCF growing in what they're doing, Cincinnati, what they did last year, I think all 4 of them can bring a positive momentum, no question, to the Big 12.
Well, I mean, I need to see Dana Holgorsen going and winning a national championship before I start to get too crazy with believing that that's going to happen soon. But I do agree with you that, yeah, they have all the makings of a program that could really rise to a completely different level that we haven't seen before. Same thing for all the others as well. I mean, that's the point, right? That's the point, is they've all been on the outside looking in. They've all been banging on the door, waiting for an invitation from somebody to prove their worth and to show that, like, hey, if you give us equal footing, we can compete right there with the best of them, and even in some cases compete and be better than them. And so here's their opportunity. This is what they've all been waiting on. They've all been preparing years for, and BYU feels that way. Houston feels that way, and I'm sure the other two feel that way as well. So, no, I think we're all with you on Houston. Absolutely. We're all with you on BYU as well. I mean, that's why they were brought in, is to take some of that weakness away from losing Oklahoma and Texas. They bring some strength back to the conference, and they bring some contenders into the conference with a lot of potential. So may not right now in the present seem like as impactful as it will be in 5 or 10 years, but the future is also in mind when you're adding those schools.
All four of the new schools are bringing some sort of momentum that they are creating. It doesn't mean you replace Texas and Oklahoma because of their name or who they have been, although Texas for 10 years has not. I like the 4 teams. I think it ended up being the perfect 4 teams to enter the conference to move forward, and we get a little taste of that, of course, this weekend. Texas Tech, Houston, they've been playing. Brigham Young and Baylor, they started playing again last year. We're now joined by Edgar Thompson, Orlando Sentinel. What a weekend it was. Miami won big against Bethune-Cookman. They were supposed to. Florida State with that dramatic win against LSU, but it was the Gators in what they were able to do to a top 10 team in Utah, with a nice win for Billy Napier to start it off. Edgar, thanks for your time. How big was that win for Florida?
Massive. You got to rebuild here with Napier coming off a 6-7 season. I mean, the Gators have lost, I think, 10 of their last 16 games, 5 of 7 to end last season under Dan Mullen. Napier, has been here 9 months. They haven't played a game yet. And he's just been building this program in the way he wants it built. And we saw some glimpses of that the other night. The physicality and kind of resilience, I guess, those are things Billy really expects to see from his football team. He wasn't pleased with a lot of aspects of the game. He said people are ready to crown the Gators, and we got a long way to go to play to our standard. He said that today. But he'll take that win. I mean, I don't know that they deserved it. He even said we didn't deserve to win the game. And Utah's right on the doorstep and throws an interception in the end zone with 18 seconds to go from like the 3. The way Utah was running the football, they had time to run the football. So probably a poor play call there. But anyway, the Gators escaped. The crowd was fantastic. It's one of the best Swamp games I've been to in 16 seasons now. It's certainly in the top 5, if not number 1. I mean, it was that electric in that place. Sold out, biggest home opener crowd ever, 90,799, and they delivered. And the players, rose to the occasion when they needed to, none more than Anthony Richardson. I mean, the kid is a primetime player. Enjoy him while you got him. He will be gone at the end of the season, barring like a serious injury. He's not NFL ready necessarily to step under center and lead a team, but I mean, physically, he's there. He's just a freak and made some plays that are going to be remembered for some time, notably the 2-point conversion play that's been played endlessly.
I wanted to ask you about Anthony Richardson because, the good and bad that we saw from him last year was he was electric running the ball and he has this fantastic arm, but sometimes when it comes out of his hand, you didn't know where it was going to go. It looks like they've really worked on that. I know that the passing game wasn't a huge part of the offense for Billy Napier, but what has been the kind of genesis of making sure that he doesn't, have those really bad throws that he had last year?
I mean, they're just continuing to try to develop the position and his decision-making. A lot of it comes down to studying, knowing what he's looking at, knowing where to go with the football before the ball's even snapped. There's just a lot of mental preparation to play that position at this level against these types of defenses and players. So a lot of it's that. But physically, I mean, the guy's arm is ridiculous. I mean, it truly is something to behold. I mean, he can throw the football with some velocity, and he's got to take something off of that football occasionally. He isn't the most accurate guy, but I don't mean to say that like he's highly inaccurate either. He's just got to improve that some, but man, he can throw it. And just his running ability is just all kinds of things for him. Again, like the 2-point conversion, and the guy starts rolling right. He pump fakes the guy, makes a 360 spin move, outruns the guy to the sideline, stops and just rifles this pass in the corner of the end zone like it was just nothing, just flicking it. I haven't seen a Gator quarterback. I mean, this is my 6th head coach in 16 seasons. I mean, Grossman I caught a year of, Trask, Chris Leak, good quarterbacks. I mean, record-setting quarterbacks, Heisman finalists in 2 cases. These guys didn't have this kid's arm strength, and nor do they have his size. Trask was a big kid, comparably, but not this athleticism. I mean, Richardson's 6'4", 232. I mean, he's built like a power forward. I mean, he's an unbelievable physical specimen, and it's just the beginning. This is the first start he's had at home in his career. I mean, think about that. First start in your career, you're a Gainesville kid, 90,000 plus, top 10 opponent, national television, and you perform at that level. That says something.
Edgar, what was the Swamp like as Utah had the ball there at the end? They're driving downfield, obviously becoming a major threat there near the end zone, and then obviously the huge interception. What was just kind of that sequence of events like in the Swamp?
I mean, it was that crescendo of crowd noise or whatever was as much as I've heard in the Swamp. I was here for the 2006 National Championship season, and then I was gone for 3 of Tebow's years. Not a lot of competitive football games during that stretch. I mean, some, but really some of his biggest crowd experiences there were on the road, Tim. But that 06 season, when Jarvis Moss blocked the extra point to beat South Carolina, that was about as loud as I've heard the place. Reggie Nelson had a pick-6 against Bama that year. Incredibly loud. They beat LSU here with the rocker step and the jump pass from Tebow. Incredible energy those times. There were a couple games under Mullen that were pretty special. Auburn 2019 was amazing beginning to end. McElwain beating Ole Miss in 15, number 3 team. They blew them off the field. That was a wild night. Will Greer before his, PDF or PDAs? What's the word? PEDs, suspension. So the point is, those were some moments. But this was like, I mean, it was something, man. I mean, people were talking about 1997 FSU Florida, 32-29 Gators, #1 Seminoles, Jacquez Green at the end, got him in position to win the game. That's considered by many the loudest game in the stadium. 94 Auburn, Terry Bowden brought in an unbeaten team, and they beat the Gators. That was a nutso game. Legend has. I was not here for the Spurrier era. I'm sure that stadium was out of control back then. But for me, that was a really amazing experience the other night. And for these kids, it was too. And that leads to the next thing is, how do they come down? I mean, how do you come off that emotional high, recalibrate, not listen to how great you are, and get prepared for a Kentucky team that's going to be a challenging team. Now, they dodged a bullet with Chris Rodriguez, the tailback being stuff. He's suspended, it seems, 900-yard games last year. But Will Levis has a lot of buzz around him. I'm not sure I'm sold on him, but let's see how he plays. Kavasi Smoak's very good. They're always very physical. This won't be an easy game. Mark Stoops a great coach. So they go from one to the next top 25 team, but the Gators might be ranked tomorrow too. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be a heck of a game.
I don't think there's any question they should be ranked. And now, as you mentioned, Kentucky lose the game to Utah, which some probably thought they would. Now all of a sudden you're 0-1 headed into a team against Kentucky who beat you last year. It does make it a little bit like more of a brighter week, right?
What week? What kind of week? I'm sorry.
No, I say lose that
game.
Week? Yeah, well,
a brighter week.
A brighter week because you're not
brighter.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, these guys, look, man, I'm not kidding. And I've drank the Kool-Aid with Napier in terms of the long-range plan. I was all about Richardson last year. I think, in fact, I was on your show talking about him at one point about how transcendent a player he appeared to be, and then he kept getting hurt or whatever was going on there with he and Mullins' dynamic at sometimes too. There was injuries and then maybe some doghouse elements in there. But point being, those two things I'm bought in on, and I'm even more bought in on them now. And you beat Kentucky if you're the Gators. You go to Tennessee in week 4. That's that's gonna be a tough game, but it's winnable. And then LSU, after what I saw last night, that's a winnable game on the 16th of October. You got Missouri before that, Eastern Washington, and I forget the other one. But you could be 7-0. My point is going against LSU potentially. I mean LSU, Georgia, potentially 2 unbeaten teams in the Georgia game. Now that's a long way down the road. They got to get past Kentucky, and then you got to get past Tennessee, etc. But there were signs the other night of a much improved team, and there are flaws. Defensive front needs to improve, and I don't know where that's going to necessarily happen. I do like some pieces there, but not a lot of depth at that tackle position that has experience. So they're playing a 439-pound kid, Des Watson, the other night. I mean, this kid is not ready to play that many snaps, but they needed the body out there, and he's got a lot of potential. Tyreek Sapp, number 94, is a name to remember. He is a really good player, I think. Really, really good upside. But still, it's like you got to get better in there because Utah came out in the second half. You guys watched it. Just ran it down Florida's throat. And then there was a goal line stand and then an interception. I mean, they were inside the 5 twice and didn't score any points. Right? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So they dodged a bullet. But you got to win games like that if you're going to be the kind of team you want to be.
Edgar, thank you as always. I'm sure we'll have you tapped in again a little bit more throughout the season. Edgar Thompson covers Florida, the Gators for Orlando Sentinel after their exhilarating win against Utah to open up the season and the Billy Napier era. When we come back, we will hear from Dave Aranda on a couple of the comments he made today during his media presser. Every other week we'll have a one-on-one with Coach Aranda, not this week, but next week when they play Texas State. This is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine. I can tell you something happened to me last night where I thought, hey, they're on DoorDash, but it was already like 11 o'clock at night, and I needed to relax. I needed a celebratory beverage, and I was out of whiskey at my house, and I was a little upset. But I did remember, had the game been at a better time and on a different day, I could have called DoorDash or ordered from DoorDash and gotten it brought to me from Riverbend Liquor and Wine. They can do that. They've got great selections of whiskeys, all, of course, the locally sourced Texas whiskeys like TX or Devil's River or Garrison Brothers or even Balcones. They've got them all there. The best selection of craft beers in Central Texas, and that roster is churning as it starts to become fall. So you're going to see those fall brews as well. The Oktoberfest, the pumpkins, all those things rolling through at Riverbend Liquor and Wine. A great drive-through window, very fast, and great customer service. Check out all their great activities that they have going on Instagram. They always got something going on at Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street behind the bank.
At Allen Samuels, our great selection of new cars and trucks come with amazing deals and competitive financing that makes you ask, why shop anywhere else? During the Labor Day sales event at Allen Samuels, purchase a new 2022 Ram 1500 Crew Cab Lone Star and receive values up to $7,000, or choose 2.9% for 72 months and get $2,500 bonus cash and no payments for 90 days. Shop with us today. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
You want
Want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
It's summertime. There's picnics, reunions, cookouts, and so much to do. And Waco Custom Marketplace on Lake Air Drive in Waco is your home for the butcher shop that can help you with beef, pork, poultry, and seafood. They are spectacular at being able to deliver you whatever cut of steak you want. Bone-in ribeye, however thick you want it, that's great. They'll do it. Sirloin, T-bone, porterhouse, bacon wrap filet. And of course, as I mentioned, they have pork, poultry, and seafood. Their Norwegian salmon is spectacular. Also, all of the sauces and seasonings you'll ever need, all the ingredients you'll ever need to make sure you have that perfect, flawless taste. So it's delicious whenever you take something off the grill. And a full-fledged bakery as well, with fresh baked bread and kolaches every single day. Up and down the aisle of Waco Custom Marketplace, you also have what you need, from knickknacks to snacks to more, at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, Waco Custom Marketplace.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
4 o'clock hour, Tim Brando, Fox Sports, had a couple of games over the weekend. Did Illinois and Indiana, and then also did the game at Camp Randall, Wisconsin. He'll join us today at 4:30.
It looked like he had fun.
Yeah, he was. I'm not so sure he was real thrilled about the videos.
No, I'm sure he's not. But
somebody just started shooting cameras. He was having a good time with Spencer Tillman. He'll join us at 4:30. But earlier today, Baylor and Brigham Young is one of the banger games. And if you could send me who you think are the 4 best, send it to us at 254-339-1122 or on the chat room, the 4 best games this week in college football. Baylor and Brigham Young is 1.
Texas and
Alabama is 2. Houston and Texas Tech, would that be 1?
I have to see the rest of the schedule.
Iowa State, Iowa. You have Tennessee at Pitt. Kentucky at Florida now becomes a game that is in that conversation.
Yeah, Kentucky at Florida's in that conversation. Tennessee at Pitt for sure. That's two teams to me that seem like they're in about the same spot right now.
Now, even though Iowa had their struggles on offense, Iowa State is always, it's a tradition-rich rivalry, and it's Iowa dominates that series, but we'll see. That could be one. And again, it's part of the conversation. But Dave Aranda earlier today spoke with the media on the week that is Brigham Young. They play up in Provo on Saturday. They beat Brigham Young here in Waco. It was so ironic because of all the changes in the incoming teams. In the year that they had Brigham Young on their schedule, they ended up playing and hosting BYU and Kalani Sitake and his program. And Dave Aranda discussed Brigham Young.
Coach, in terms of most non-conference opponents, you kind of go in, you've seen the tape, but maybe players don't know exactly what to expect on the field. When you have this rare one where a lot of guys have seen this team before.
Mm-hmm.
How much of a benefit is that to you?
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, it works both ways. I think, in looking at them, there is a flare of game plan, of game planning on the defensive side of the ball, particularly. And so, there's not there. You look at week to week, they change some. So there are some consistencies, but not as much as maybe your typical outfit. And so I think that shows up, which will kind of deter the, we played them last year thing. And then I also think though that offensively with, Grimy and Eric being there and, having some of the roots of it and then, seeing how it's expanded in the throw game particularly, I think, the changes from last year to this year, I think, are many, and they're probably growing.
You talked about the number of players that played. Running back and receiver, did you see specific guys emerge there, or will it take maybe a couple more games?
No, it was good to see. I think I think that's ongoing, and so I think it's yes and to answer your question. I think Monterey his role is bigger now, and so for him to kind of take hold of that right away and run with it is cool to see. I think Hal and that the position he's playing right now was a big one coming from last year, and for him to make his own mark on it pretty early is cool to see. And then I thought Seth did a lot of good things, blocking and a lot of little things that he's really worked hard on in fall camp, and to see the transformation with Seth just way cool. And I think he's emerging. And so it's good to see. Then, to have Jalen catch that ball at the end was really neat. I think he's one that's always fighting something, some type of, ankle injury or knee injury, and to be able to get him running like that, it's good for the future.
Kind of in that same vein, the first big road test last year at Oklahoma State, you saw a lot of the newer guys blink. Mm-hmm. How do you then prepare for the hostile environment on Saturday?
From the very beginning, from January all the way on, just every obstacle that's hard, everything that's not easy, everything that's not, that's not comfort, right? Saying yes to those things.
That's Dave Aranda earlier today. Brigham Young coming up Saturday night in Provo, and also about the young receivers emerging as they made some plays. Craig, you do a quick hit. Paul, you were also watching. I was traveling on Saturday evening. It was so fun to see Gavin Holmes and also Squirrel Williams have success early in that game. That just the story behind those players and how many times they've been out or injured, to me, was part of the best part of that game.
Yeah, I mean, it was, it's great if you know their stories. If you don't, you're like, what are you talking about? But they've both been through a lot of injuries. That's, probably a story that every college football team out there has. It was great. I just, I'm looking forward to being able to just talk about them and not have that caveat every time we talk about them, Like, I just feel like Squirrel Williams' entire career, it's like, he's great, but, hey, they'd be great, but, right? And with Gavin Holmes, same thing. Hey, if he could stay healthy, if he could, and there's a lot of coulds and buts with those guys, and it's not their fault. It can't help that they get injured, but yeah, it was nice to see them actually out there and to actually be talking about them for just making a play and just making a football play and not, getting carted off the field or, missing action. So that was tremendous in that regard. And I mean, look, Baylor handled their business against a team that they were 7 touchdown favorites over. That was not meant to be a competitive game. That was meant to be, for all intents and purposes, a tune-up for Baylor before BYU. Originally, it was supposed to be La Tech, and I think that would have probably ended up in probably similar fashion, really, when all was said and done. But, yeah, they went out and handled their business. Blake Shapen looked sharp. Kyron Drones looked sharp as well in a backup role. And I think you just got to see what you want to see in games like that. You want to see the benches emptied. You want to see young players. You want to see people stay healthy. And you want to see a win. And you want to see a comfortable win. And they checked every single one of those boxes on Saturday night. And the fans, even in a blowout, stayed, pretty good length of the way through the game because I think they were just entertained by, how dominant Baylor was and getting to see all of these new faces or old faces that they hadn't seen in a while. So I don't know how you could have really scripted outside of, Georgia beating a near top 10 team in the opener and outside of that kind of a thing. It's exactly what you want out of a season opener if you're Baylor football.
Oh, I thought so. I mean, there, you can nitpick about some things, and the right side of the offensive line probably had the worst day. When you're talking about something has to be the best and something has to be the worst, but when you win 69-10 or whatever it was, what do you have to complain about? I mean, there's really nothing, and some of that will just come with chemistry and time, and there's one position that's different on the offensive line this year, and it's at one of the guards. So they've got to step in and make that work as a 5 together, and they feel like they're deep, so they can do that with 8 guys that they can move around. And I think that'll be fine. I thought the defense looked like I thought the defense would. I was really impressed with Monterey Baldwin and Hal Presley and even Seth Jones and everybody. I thought everybody looked really good. So we'll see against BYU this week. I mean, that's going to be ratcheted up. It's different. You can't play Albany every week. So it's going to be different.
They did what they should have done, and there were still parts of the game in which the coaching staff, I'm sure, were able to get on film the evidence. There was the injury to Tyler Shuck, the quarterback at Texas Tech. I was looking at Don Williams' timeline from the Lubbock Avalanche Journal, a collarbone injury. I'm hoping that it's less than 6 weeks, Joey McGuire, who got his first win as a collegiate head coach. But I would probably say it's anywhere between 3 and 6 weeks to get him back.
Well, go ahead.
And Donovan Smith came in and looked really good as they won against Murray State as they should have, but now they get ready for Houston.
Well, I was going to say, I think that maybe this is just something that sped up what was going to happen already anyways. I think Donovan Smith has, all the intangibles that you're looking for. I think that he's a guy a lot of people were high on in the offseason and were kind of surprised when he didn't win the starting job. But when you have a guy like Shuck who's transferred in, got hurt last year, stayed, you reward him, and I'm not saying that they just gave him the starting job. He earned it, of course, as well, but I do think there's some, you get a little extra nudge if you're like that senior who's fought adversity and all of that, and I think there was probably some of that because I think Donovan Smith's really talented, and had you named him the starting quarterback, I don't think anybody would have blinked. So now I think that you've got a guy in place who is big and sturdy and got a big arm and can do a lot for you. Had 4 touchdowns in that game the other night. So I don't think that they're really sweating it too much in Lubbock, Texas right now. I think there might even be some that are semi-celebrating, not the injury, but just the fact that, hey, we get to see Donovan Smith starting at quarterback now. So this is part of the reason why I wasn't like, oh, poor Texas Tech in their first year with Joey, they're going to, go 1-11 or whatever. No, I never expected that to be the case. I've been hammering home that they should be expecting to be a bowl team. I don't care that it's the first year under new head coach. And I think Donovan Smith's going to be a big part of the reason why there's going to be that belief that stems throughout the rest of the year, because I do think they're going to win some games. I don't think it's going to be your typical downtrodden first year like Baylor had to experience on a couple of occasions with Aranda and with Matt Rule. That's not necessarily the norm, and I don't think that'll be the norm in Lubbock either, because I think Donovan Smith's fully capable of running that offense.
Well, they need that to not only win the game, then they took care of business, but now they have Houston and then NC State back-to-back.
Yeah.
And so
NC
they're settled in. Their quarterback room entering the year was fantastic, and they'll be just fine.
And NC State nearly got wiped out in week number 1. So, I mean, you'll see on them. I mean, you still, love Devin Leary and, the potential there. But they obviously had a close call. And Houston, how much they have in the tank after last week? I mean, they took every single ounce of what they had to beat UTSA. And, hey, that was a hell of a win for Holgo on the road especially. I know Jeff Traylor had a decision in that game that proved really costly. He even said afterwards, I'll never forgive myself for that. But, I mean, just overall – you break it down, that was a hell of a game. That was a hell of a game. And so, yeah, you wonder how amped up or kind of, how much juice was taken out of Houston in that first week. But I'm sure that'll be a heck of a game in week 2. It's only week 2, so everybody should still have plenty of energy left. But yeah, that's going to be very interesting.
I'll tell you this, after that Houston game and then watching UTSA last year, if the UTSA athletic department calls me and said, would you like to come here to San Antonio and play a game? I'd be like, I mean, like is a strong word. I don't know if I would.
You're talking about 5 or 6 years from now.
Yeah.
Here's one thing I had, and I'll admit this. I was going to text Jeff Traylor when I didn't have a text ready, but I was going to text him, especially if they were able to hold on and win the game or come back in the overtime, whatever. And I just couldn't. I didn't even send the text. He is a hell of a football coach. Damn, he's done a great job at UTSA. And that was a great environment. What they're building in San Antonio at UTSA is phenomenal and would have been a great win. Army this week, and then they, of course, play in Austin against Texas. They are a team that is just really, really well coached and very good.
Yeah, but that substitution error was quite costly for them. They had a 4th down stop, and it changed that because of the penalty flag, and then the rest is history. So I know that was something that really was biting him afterwards. But you're right, he doesn't need to hang his head. That's the kind of thing that stuff happens, decisions happen, and sometimes things go your way, sometimes they don't. He'll learn from that. He'll be a better football coach from that, and they're damn sure a better program because of him and because of a game like Saturday against Houston. I think they showed a lot of people in this state that maybe weren't aware, but a lot of people nationally that maybe weren't aware. And you do see some of that UTSA attention growing. They're getting mentioned more. You hear a lot more meep and things like that from, I think, more of your probably hardcore college football fans. But I think just as a whole, they're starting to get some attention in the best kind of way. So great effort, great game, and I'm very intrigued by Houston and Texas Tech now.
Cheeto Miko earlier, Paula, among others. It's Labor Day. A lot of people are enjoying the day off. We couldn't do that. Not that we're not enjoying this. We want to be here, but the week of the first full weekend of college football, I just can't imagine how we would not be here. And then also, don't forget, if you're in the Waco area and you get the Waco CW channel, which is around Central Texas, starting tonight and every weeknight at 10:30, they will have a condensed version of the show that we're doing right now and have it in 4 different segments of the best discussion or topics or interviews or whatever else. And we'll have those every weeknight, 10:30, on the CW channel in Central Texas. It's 4:20. Tim Brando will join us, of course, coming up as well in just a moment. But the Tyler Shuck news, still news, and despite the fact they seem to be just fine with Donovan Smith as the quarterback at Texas Tech. That will be, what would the over-under, you think? I don't look at the odds. I'm not a gambler. But what would the over-under be on Texas Tech and Houston? 65?
65 points total?
70? 80?
For each team?
No, for total. The total. The combined
over-under. How many points total combined?
That's what you think the total will be?
I don't know.
It's like 65, like with those two teams? I think it's going to be like.
That's why I asked the question, because it could be.
Well, that's
90.
why I was trying to get clarity so I could make sure I was answering it properly. But yeah, I think it's going to be way higher than that, because you look at what Texas Tech was doing on Saturday. I mean, every drive was like a minute or less as far as touchdown drives go. You look around at the Big 12 right now, Oklahoma was doing the same with Jeff Lebby, and I think that's signs that we kind of expected during the offseason that, more of that just high up-tempo, some of it's air raid, some of it's not, but those offenses are back in the Big 12, and now they're mixing with really dang good defenses. So that's going to make for quite the few battles here over the next few weeks. But yeah, I mean, with those two teams playing, I think there will be some defense played, but I'm definitely expecting the offenses to win the day, so to speak.
I'm trying to find the over-under, but of course it's not a game yet that I've been able to get to, but I would think that could be 45-40. Something in that neighborhood. That's what I was trying to say,
yeah.
Here we go. Over
65 and a half.
65 and a half. That's about what I thought. And maybe want to get over that. Again, so what a weekend, huh? Some dramatic games all the way through last night's crazy finish. Florida State about to put the game away. Then Notre Dame fans. LSU goes 99 yards to score. I do want to discuss the play at the end, and then we have Tim Brando coming up at 4:30.
Okay, so
hold on.
Yeah.
LSU gets the throw to the tight end, Taylor. Looks like he gets out of bounds with 2 seconds to go. They go to replay. Knee goes down inside, inbounds. It's a first down. Clock would stop. But we were texting back and forth, the three of us. That just seems like maybe LSU got a hell of a break, even though the clock would have run out.
So I was very curious about this. So I text Brad Strickland, our friend today, who's an official, and I asked Brad about, okay, so explain this to me, because I don't want to sound like, oh, the game should have been over, the FSU got screwed, like all that. I don't want to sound like that, because that's what I did feel, but I wanted the story about it. So really, here's what happened, and this is why I say Mike Norvell in the last 5 minutes, not the best coach. He should have never taken the timeout after that. He should have made them snap the ball really fast after that and see what happens, because they scored anyway, but they might have not had to block that extra point. So the officials were, in that situation, err on the side of caution when it comes to out of bounds, because they know that they have the option to get the review. So Norvell was right to get the review because the clock should have been running on the ready. But then when all that happened, it's going to give Notre Dame an extra play. It was not described the right way. Like Notre Dame will get to, or LSU, you made me do it now. LSU will get to run another play. Well, they should say they'll have an opportunity to snap it before 1 second. But then when Mike Norvell took the timeout, it made that possibility moot, and he kind of gave himself his own problem there by letting them have that timeout anyway, because then it made it moot as opposed to just be out there and ready to go. Stand there and wait for them to say, all right, they have 2 seconds and go. Yeah.
That took a long time, dramatic. I thought that when he went out of bounds, it was the right call. And then, of course, you see the knee hit. And what a drive, though, for LSU. And to get that into that position, and they couldn't have been more flawless in what they did. Great job by Daniels. He didn't have the best game, but the last 2 or 3 series, it seemed like he was as sharp as ever. When the game got frenetic, it kind of reminded me of the days when Charlie Brewer was the quarterback at Baylor, when you would nothing for 3 quarters and all of a sudden all hell was breaking loose. And speaking of him, had an injury. He's out again at Liberty. He's now been out at Utah, out at Liberty, benched at Utah really, but injured. And then, of course, at Baylor, he was there for the years up until through the COVID year. When we come back, Tim Brando, Fox Sports, on the opening full weekend of college football. What did he take out of all of it? He's next on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. They are the people that you can count on, the people that I've counted on more than a couple occasions with my car as well. Didn't buy it from them originally, but next time that I do get into the market for vehicle buying, Richard Carr will be the people that I count on there as well. They've got great customer service. They've also got great pricing. They've also they do a great job in terms of repairing your car. If you need any repairs or need any service, they are top-notch when it comes to that as well. But first things first, they're a dealership, so they're in the market of putting cars out there to the public. And if you need a car, you need a truck, you need an SUV, well, they are the place to go. Right now, don't wait any longer. They've got new cars and trucks arriving weekly, so come by or log on to richardcar.com to view their in-stock inventory, or cut in line by getting your name on their inbound vehicle list to reserve a brand new Buick, GMC, or Cadillac before anyone else. If you need a car today, Richard Carr has new trucks on the lot, over 95 quality pre-owned cars and trucks in stock. All pre-owned vehicles go through a 172-point inspection, plus you get top dollar on your trade. With dozens of lending options, Richard Carr says yes to loans when others say no. And if you want to drive your current car longer, Richard Carr has award-winning service and collision repair. Richard Carr is a dealer you can count on for a great deal and superior service for the life of your car. For 23 years in Central Texas, Richard Carr built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs. Run by proud Waco's proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcar.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
1, 2. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. He cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Wobbly kick from Pasteur. Gavin Holmes steps out of a tackle across the 50. Gavin Holmes, the sixth-year senior, into the end zone. 73 yards.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Paul's working on getting Fox Sports broadcaster Tim Brando to us. We'll have David Hellman an hour from now. The Cowboys and the NFL season begins starting on Thursday. Cowboys, of course, home Sunday evening against Tampa Bay and Tom Brady. Also, today, we'll hear from Travis Roeder, Sikkim 365 college football analyst. He'll join us to kind of say, what did we learn from Saturday? And also look ahead to the Brigham Young game. We will have Kalani Sitake, Brigham Young head coach, either tomorrow or Wednesday. As soon as we know, we will let you know as well. While we're waiting for Tim, can we get to Sam Pittman? This is great. Did you show me this, Garrett? Did you share this with me?
I believe I might have. I shared a couple of things.
This is Arkansas head coach Sam Pittman after a very hard-fought back and forth. They pretty much always were in control, but not always like it was done against, of course, Cincinnati.
Coach, I asked you what the host of this party was going to be serving up today. What's the drink of choice tonight?
Well, you know, I'm not promoting it, but I like some old cold beer. I think I'm going to have one. I'm not promoting it now.
I'm sure somebody who didn't have a sense of humor lost their mind on that. But, hey, good for Sam Pittman. That was a good, very, very good game.
And you know what? We need to just enjoy fun stuff like that and not immediately make our brains go towards like the one unhappy person that will take offense to that. We do that way too often. Just as in general, we immediately go, oh, well, somebody's probably going to be, well, who cares? Who cares? There's nothing offensive about that. So, yeah, good to see him having fun and deservedly deserved a cold beer. He deserved a cold beer after that win. That was a great W to start off the season. Arkansas is an intriguing team. They don't appear to be good enough to, book them in the SEC championship spot or a playoff spot, but they're interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they kind of navigate the rest of this way. But that was a hell of a way to kick things off, and a very happy crowd, certainly, and rightfully so.
From the 254, question for the 12-team playoff, and here I'm glad they're going to more teams. Craig has mentioned this. I don't know the answer of what's the right number, but 5 or 6 SEC teams in the 12-team playoff seems like it would be a real possibility. What are your thoughts? If they earn it and get in and they win, okay. I think 5 or 6 is a high number. You have 6 of those spots are done. 6 of those spots are taken. There are 6 left. Could they get 3, 4, 5 at large? Sure. But I really don't think that's going to be the common denominator year in and year out. The other conferences will also have teams that will be involved in those at-large berths as well.
I just think that the bigger concerns when it comes to an expanded college football playoff have nothing to do with like SEC, romping all over it, and more to do like if people want to have a genuine conversation about like the major reasons why an expanded playoff wouldn't be good, then we start getting into player pay and we start getting into like health and safety because of the extra games that they're playing and things like that. I think those are all very logical and sound reasons for why you'd be anti-playoff, but things that could be adjusted and accommodations made, and probably will be made before the playoff expands somehow with player pay and getting some kind of chunk of the playoff money. I think those are all legitimate, but I think the whole reason behind, well, we're just going to see blowouts or it'll just be all SEC. I mean, I think that's a ridiculous reason to not do something. If they're that good and they are able to find their way to where, hey, a couple of teams get that first round bye, like it, would be right now, it'd be like a Georgia, Alabama, for example, but then A&M and Arkansas are able to weave their way through a tournament where they win a couple of games to get into a Final Four to play Alabama and Georgia. Well, like I said earlier, hats off to them. Like, people could be angry about that, but what are they going to be angry about? They should be angry about the fact that it's not the teams they want, but they certainly couldn't sit there and say that those teams don't deserve it. I think right now you're seeing a lot of the outside looking in like, man, that team, that'd be really fun to see that number 5 team get in there. And you're told, oh, well, no, they just get blown out. Well, yeah. Well, how do you know that? Well, just trust me on that, bro. Well, we never get to see that, And then the one time about, see what happens? Like, I just think that's a ridiculous thing to not do something and not expand it and allow other teams to have that feeling of making the postseason and playoff appearances and all of that. But I
agree. And here's another thing, though. With that being said, right now they have 2 seats at a 4-seat table, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And so if they get into the Final Four and it's all of them, that means they had to win an extra game or 2.
That's what that's my whole point. Like Arkansas could, in theory, get in there, and so could LSU. Let's just say an example. Okay, well, to do that, they had to beat a Cincinnati or a Baylor or an Oklahoma State or somebody, just like, and so instead of a bowl game, it was a bowl-type game to win a game to go then play. So, yeah, if 4 teams to were advanced, even if 2 of them got buys, you'd have to take your hat off and say, well, freaking done, SEC. But, that's certainly not a reason to not do it. And I think we'd all sit there and go, like, forget all this conference pride and thing that's just like sort of like they sort of started that, and now realignment's made it even more so. But I think fans just go, if those are the best 4 teams, those are the best 4 teams. And what a year for one conference in particular.
Tim Brando, Fox Sports, had a couple of games over the weekend, was at Camp Randall. He also did Illinois, Indiana. Joins us, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Tim, Friday was a huge day with the expansion discussion and also the announcement. Then we had a bunch of evidence over the weekend. What is your take of what we saw this past weekend in college football?
It's why we love college football, gentlemen. I mean, all I've heard for the last 5 months is how gloom and doom and how college football will never be the same. And I'm not sure I'll be a fan of it anymore. Oh, okay. Well, then you missed out. That was one hell of a weekend. And end of week, almost a fortnight, right? We started on Thursday, and we won't finish up actually until tonight. So I'm going to watch the Clemson Georgia Tech game. I don't expect it to be an outstanding game because they're not in. I don't think Georgia Tech is in the class of Clemson. But my goodness, what a week!
Tim, we've been talking to you every time we've had you on our show about college football playoff expansion, and then out of the blue, like Tinkerbell did it, all of a sudden we've got college football playoff expansion. Your thoughts on what the college football leaders can do when they actually put their mind to something?
And it's not a surprise that it's happening with the Big Ten deal first done. I think I've been on your show, guys, quite enough, and I've said it. They need to get the TV deals done, and the Big Ten deal was the biggest of the deals. And with it done, they could start moving in the proper direction. It's clear that Greg Sankey and Kevin Warren are on the same page. That had to happen. Okay, those two had to be on the same page. Now they are, and Brett Yormark, in my opinion, he didn't wait for the Pac-12 to take advantage of their rights actually being up before the Big 12 to start his negotiations before the Pac-12 could. So, again, you got a guy that gets it, a marketing guy that understands in today's world that just because you got 2 years left doesn't mean you can't start negotiating right away. And that's what he's doing. So, everyone now is on the same page. And that means we're moving in the right direction. I think if you saw my own Brando, I put it out on Twitter Friday night. I actually taped it before I called the Indiana-Illinois game with Spencer. I will tell you that I believe that the 12 now, they're floating it out now, 12 teams now, means that the potential of 16 could be there if we do wait 3 or 4 years before it actually happens. I think it could happen sooner rather than later. The potential of it happening, and now that rests with the current rights holders. Okay, that would be something that the CFP and ESPN would have to take care of because they are the current rights holders. But if we're all in the same boat and we all agree that it's time for expansion, I think it would be probably pretty well documented that everybody wants to go to 12, but that one entity doesn't. And if that's the case, then I think it's in the best interest, just my opinion. Okay, I'm certainly not a decision maker for the boys in Bristol, but I think it would be a wise choice to go ahead and tear up the deal and move on so we can get on with it and make the product better for everybody, because this is a win-win for everybody. Television gets more inventory, college football gets more teams and more revenue, and fans get more games. There's absolutely no downside to this. Zero. Anybody telling you otherwise is an elitist that doesn't get it. Okay? They're just pom-pom waving fans who want their party to be their small party only, and that's it. We don't want anybody else to have a chance. Okay? And that's pretty simple for anybody to see.
Yeah, you summed up exactly how I feel, Tim, on it. The elitist is saying that word exactly in everything. I feel the same way. The arguments are, there might be some blowouts, or there might be, the same teams. I mean, so what? So what?
So what? So what? It's about adding energy and enthusiasm to the last half of the regular season. There will be more viewers of more games when the games matter more. Okay, I used this example the other night on the air. Spencer and I have done the Heartland Trophy game, I think 2 of the last 3 years between Wisconsin and Iowa. Now, neither of those teams, are offensive juggernauts. They don't, they're not necessarily the most enjoyable teams to watch, but they're very effective and they're damn good, especially defensively, with great players who play on Sunday eventually. Almost always, those two teams are in the top 15 when they play, Iowa and Wisconsin. And generally speaking, that game is on opposite the Iron Bowl between Auburn and Alabama. And people will say, oh, Brando, nobody's watching your game. Well, wait a minute. I can tell you over 3 million people have watched the Heartland Trophy game each of the last 3 years. So there's a significant audience in the Big Ten area that's watching that game, not the Iron Bowl. So if suddenly that game, the Heartland Trophy game, between a team that's ranked, let's say Iowa is ranked 8th and Wisconsin's ranked 14th, okay? It's an early November game, or mid to late November game. Do you think more people are going to watch that game if they know one of the winner might be in the top 12?
Oh, yeah.
Of course they are. So that's just one example. There's many, many more that I could cite for you. That games, we talk about games in November resonate. They're the ones that everyone remembers. November's games are the ones you remember. And that TCU Baylor game, by example. How devastated would you have been if 12 were getting in? I think that's the game that cost you a chance to play off last year. Now you can survive that potentially if you have a good enough season prior to that. So it keeps more teams involved, and the more teams involved, the more fans are involved, and the sport grows. It's that simple. We're not watering down the product. We're just making the product bigger and better. It's as simple as that.
Tim, Bob Thompson, former Fox Sports executive, has been on with us a handful of times, really ever since USC and UCLA. He mentioned yesterday, I think it was maybe a couple of different times, about how much more money this is. He also said basically that this ends any speculation about super conferences, at least for now. Do you agree? Do you think that this because people get afraid they're going to be left out?
Yeah, and that's a bunch of garbage that's coming from a lot of the media that doesn't know or comprehend or understand, or always simply trying to find something wrong. You see a lot in today's media, especially with college athletics, and especially in the Northeast and in the far West. You see it because they're not really into college football anyway, and they're looking to find something wrong with it. Not only does this mean that the super conferences are not going to happen yet, it also means that all the Division I programs that are in Group of Five need not worry. Okay, they're going to be involved. Mike Oresco, who's a dear friend of mine, he and I are very close. We talk all the time. He's jumping through the moon about expansion because the American Conference has done pretty well for itself. They've got the best TV contract among all the Group of Five. If you're not getting in a Power Five conference, that's the league you most want to be in. It's the one that's had the most success. Yeah, they're losing, in addition to Cincinnati from last year, Houston. They're going to lose them next year as well as UCF. But there are other really good teams in that league, and they're replacing them with teams that are in major markets. And I think the chances are very good that those programs will become more successful with time. So there's no doubt in my mind that a team like a Cincinnati from last year or UCF from a few years ago, Boise State from back in the early 2000s, still have a chance to make headway and, hey, may even get more than one of those teams in 1 year. Who's to say that, there couldn't be a team out in the Mountain West like a Boise State that gets hot and does something like they did in the early 2000s? They could do that again. I think the chances are very good of that happening. So anytime you've got more access available to you, you can at least say you have hope that every player at the Division I level in college football that starts lacing it up to go out in the spring and gets ready for fall camp can feel that they have a chance to play in college football's largest stage. And that's what the playoff will be. It'll be college football's largest stage. And, the first round, I think everything I've read, everyone I've talked to have indicated that we're bringing it to the college campuses too, which I think is great. Absolutely great to have the first round there. I wouldn't mind seeing 2 rounds there. And I think the potential of going to 16 rather than 12 is there too, fellas. I'm going to say that again. I think that floating out 12 teams now, doing it right away, helps set up the potential of maybe going to 16 rather than just 12 by the time we get there.
Tim, the other thing, you mentioned the elitists, you and Craig were talking about that, but I think it's funny how people would say, well, it's still the top teams will be the top teams, but they always have, and they're always kind of going to be that way. But you can't grow an apple orchard in a week, right? You got to plant seeds and grow trees and rows, and these seeds wouldn't it help that knowing that, if I do commit to a team that's, consistently 15th, but they look good, their coach seems fun, that all of a sudden we could get to 12th and be in the playoff, that some of those 5 stars might start to dribble down, away from Georgia and Alabama and the 4 or 5 schools that always get them.
Well, college football is like any other great sport. It's about evolution. And, we've had teams that have evolved for years in college football. Way back in the day when it was just 2 teams, Florida State would lose that early game to Miami, and that would be it. They couldn't get in. Well, Bobby Bowden's teams during that period of time, that was 14 years, they finished in the top 5 of the AP. 14 years. And they only got to play for, I think, a handful of titles, and they only won 2. If 4 spots had been available, Bobby might have won, in his era, he might have won 6 national championships. Now, we're talking about teams that can gain momentum, gather themselves, have a really good season, and if you catch them once they've evolved into a much better team, look out. Okay, we could have a number of surprises. It's been pointed out by a few. I'll mention a friend of mine who I think a lot of, who writes for CBS, Barrett Sallee. Barrett will never, ever, because he's an SEC elitist, and he really is, he'll never want more than 4 teams, okay? And he'll point out that Oregon, ranked 11th, okay, gets boat race at a neutral site against Georgia. Well, I'll also point out that Utah, who I even thought about possibly putting in the 4th position instead of Baylor. Utah is ranked number 5. They go into the swamp against an unranked team and they lose. Okay. Utah might not lose another game. They might not, but give it up for what Florida did, what Billy Napier was able to pull off. And the Richardson kid's a great quarterback. Good for Florida. But don't tell me there's not parity, because we have plenty of parity. It's just not there among the top 3 teams. I think that 4 is in doubt. It was in doubt last year. I think 4 will be in doubt this year. But we got plenty of parity between number 4 and number 50 in college football right now. Okay, well, let's bring some of that parity into the playoffs so we can have some fun and reclaim, the month of December and reclaim New Year's Day. And stop allowing the National Football League to continue to add playoff games and really take all of the spotlight off the college game. That's what we've allowed. That's what the CFP in its current form has done. It has absolutely taken all of the juice that college football had and stuffed it away. It's been put back down in the dungeon. This will reclaim a lot of things that college football has given up for itself through the years.
Tim, I agree wholeheartedly. And I had somebody, or I've seen a few people make the remark of, well, you'll hate this once it's 4, SEC teams in the Final Four. And I said, heck, we'll be applauding them. Like they'll have earned it. They'll have beaten some teams from around the country they normally wouldn't have to play, and they'll have earned their spot.
Well, see, that's just an elitist statement from a fan base that I know all too well. I grew up in it. And by the way, God love the SEC.
Sure.
My involvement with the SEC, it meant a lot to my career, no question about it. But those are the same damn people that call me Benedict Arnold, for wanting to get a check from Fox and leave the Southeastern Conference. Like I had like that was all my, you know what I mean? The reality is, if you're the best, then enjoy being the best. Having to play a few more games shouldn't be a problem. No, the truth is they're scared to death. They're scared that, oh, my God, now we're going to have to win how many games to get to the championship? It's still a game. If you talk to most fans, they are so chronic. I mean, they are so out of their minds, these people, that they believe that nothing good is going to happen for their team from the moment they get to the stage. I mean, they are so insecure about their teams, and yet they're the first ones to be blowhards on social media and on radio and podcasts to talk about how great their damn league is. I mean, fans of college football are what makes the sport great. They're also what make the sport really sad from time to time. And I'm willing to point it out, okay? And now what we're finding in a lot of cases with everybody having a podcast and everybody getting a radio show is we got fans. You know, I saw today, I don't know if you guys saw it on social media, how many videos of commentators watching in studios at network operations did you see reacting emotionally to the outcome of the LSU Florida State game last night? You see any of that?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
You see some of that?
Yeah.
Whatever happened to this? The announcement in every press box before every game. There will be no cheering in the press box tonight. Okay? You're here to work. Okay? You cannot be a broadcaster and you cannot be a writer, a really good writer, if you root openly for the teams you cover. Sorry, that's not the way I was raised. But we're seeing that now. I call it pom-pom waving fans disguised as media. You know, that's a problem that our business has, and it's getting worse by the day.
Tim, I went to a game. Yeah,
God
Tim,
bless you.
I went to I'm a Florida State grad. I went to a game with my friends in 2012. The last time I was at the Doak, and they were playing Clemson. It was a great game, but I sat there and didn't cheer. And they're like, "What's the matter with you? Are you sad?" I'm like, "No, I trained it out of myself. Like I've been working on this for years to not be able to feel." Outward emotion, like in my brain, I'm happy, but I can be happy later with you guys. Like right now, I'm just watching this game. It's not as hard to do as people think.
No, it's by example, some of what you're seeing today and hearing in the national media, people just jumping all over Brian Kelly today. A lot of that, I'm just going to tell you, there are so many Golden Domers in the media that just thought what Brian Kelly did last year to leave Notre Dame was so heinous. How dare you leave Notre Dame, okay, the winningest coach in the history of the school, for LSU? How dare you do that? So they are just rooting for an implosion in Baton Rouge.
Mm-hmm.
It's hilarious to me. The holier than thous in media that have ties to Notre Dame, or just the approach of the college game, that believe that from their lofty perch, that how awful is it for a coach at grand old Notre Dame to go to a state institution that clearly will do anything to buy a national championship, okay? It's just pathetic to watch it because we're in a business that's supposed to be unbiased, okay? What happened to Brian Kelly's team last night was typical of anyone in his first year. You got a bad culture that you're trying to repair with a great player who clearly was pouting, acting like a diva, the wide receiver, okay, Butte. His quarterback, who is a transfer from Arizona State, is doing everything he can with a bad offensive line that was left him by Ed Orgeron to try to do it all on his own. And his best player isn't even making an attempt to make a catch at a ball thrown right between his numbers in the end zone in the first half because he's pissed off he didn't get the ball enough. Okay, those are things that are going to happen with first-year coaches when taking over dumpster fires like LSU. That's what happened here. And you saw what happened at the end. They finally started making their move, and by miracle, really, Mike Norvell calling a pitch play at the 1.5 yard line, they have a chance to come back and win the game. It happens. It's one game. But Brian Kelly is a 60-year-old guy from Massachusetts that the holier-than-thous just believe sold out to go down on the Bayou and coach those people that talk like Ed Orgeron. Okay, that's the kind of thing that we're seeing in media today that is so sad because fans can act like that. But what media does, my God, it just is, it's embarrassing to me. It really is.
Tim, I know you got to go, and you had a busy weekend with the two games, but it is 35 years ago today, you and Bino Cook, Lee Corso, College Game Day was launched. I saw what you mentioned a couple of times. How about the memories of that?
Well, let me say this. First, I didn't see it because they did it on Thursday night. I was prepping, obviously, for my game between Indiana and Illinois. I was a little busy with 2 games back-to-back. So I didn't see their debut before the backyard brawl. But I really want to publicly thank, I've already texted Kirk and Reese Davis, but I want to publicly thank all those guys, Pollock and Desmond Howard, as well, for paying homage to Bino. And, of course, Lee being on the set, Corso's always kept Bino's spirit alive and has always mentioned my having been on his coattails when we started Game Day 35 years ago today. It was the greatest career opportunity that I had ever gotten, and I didn't even realize it. I was too young and too green to understand just how big of a chance it was. I actually was thinking, okay, I really want to get into the booth and start calling these games, okay, but this is nice. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm still on the on-deck circle. I never appreciated it, but I certainly now understand the gravity of what it all meant. But for those guys to all mention, and Lee brought it up, and then Kurt chimed in with Timmy B and the boys, and that really meant a lot to me. And I know most of my credibility in terms of history of the game comes from the time that I spent with Bino, because I valued history as a 28, 29-year-old guy. I was 30 years old when when I started there in '86 on the sidelines of the CFA primetime, and was about to turn 31 when Game Day was born on this date in '87. And it's the best thing that happened to me to trigger my career in a direction that's had me now in this business over 4 decades at the national level and 5 decades since I started broadcasting. So that was really nice of them. They don't often go that far back when they're going through the archives, but for them to do it there with the game being at Pitt and the practice field there being named after Bino, it was really, really nice. Something they didn't have to do, and I really appreciate it.
Who do you have this week?
Oh, a great one. I love this game. Houston, and by the way, if you that comeback, that's a good UTSA team. You guys know the job that guy's done. He's incredible, and they're a factor in their league this year. I guarantee you, UTSA will be a team that's going to be difficult to beat for everybody they play. But Houston's down at 1 point, 21-7 in the third, and their quarterback is he's capable of being a Heisman candidate. I mean, he really is. And they're going to be at Texas Tech. Joey McGuire, your guy that helped Matt Rule get it rolling there at Waco and at Baylor. I can't wait to talk to him. Now as a head coach, he was there with us last year after he had been named the head coach. So I'm looking forward to seeing him and seeing Dana Holgorsen. I think it's going to be one of the really great games, a precursor, obviously, to a Big 12 matchup that we'll be watching for many years to come. But for Houston, it's one of those games, if they can win, it's a Power 5 skin on the wall for a Group of 5 team that can legitimize them as a top 10 team, which is always important.
Tim, thank you, man. As always, I know you had a crazy busy week and another one coming up. Thanks for your time whenever you can give it to us. Well,
God bless you guys. I appreciate it. And I sure hope we get to Waco. I can't wait to get to McLean Stadium and see you guys. How about me throwing McLean Stevenson in over Stadium?
No, that's fine.
Hey, 2 games in a weekend.
I know Fridays are crazy, and we have high school football. You and I were texting about that earlier today. But if you get in town, we want to make sure we get you to our studio, even if it's for just to shake your hand, get a picture behind the set.
No, that'll happen. And I routinely get in there on Thursdays.
Okay, good. Saturday. That's even better. Okay.
We'll make Thursday, all right?
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. Tim Brando.
Be well.
Fox Sports chat room going up and down. Great stuff from Tim Brando. This is Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, lowt.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you need to be, used to be, and you still can be. Here's what you can do. Go to pettycliniclowt.com. Left-hand corner, email, phone number. And let's just say as you've gotten older, it doesn't mean you have to be 45 or 50, but as you've gotten into your 30s, maybe into your 40s, and especially if you've been in the 50s or so, 1 out of every 3 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. Could be energy, could be extra body fat, no matter if your workout regime is pretty good or even your diet's pretty good. Your sex drive. How many of the commercials you see all the time right now about ED or issues with your sex drive? Testosterone can have a lot to do with that. 1 out of every 3 men have those symptoms, and maybe that's you. How do you find out? He'll set you up, Dr. Petty, to get your blood work. He'll look at the results, and if your testosterone levels are low, he can put you in a program to help you become the high-performance man you want to be, used to be, and need to be. PettyClinicLowT.com.
If you're out looking for a great selection of new cars and trucks, then shop Allen Samuels in Waco, because we have some of the best deals in Central Texas that will put you in a new vehicle and driving away with confidence. During the Labor Day sales event, you can take your pick, a new 2022 Dodge Charger or Dodge Challenger, and receive 0% for 72 months and no payments for 90 days. If you're a first responder, you get an extra $500 off your purchase. High-quality vehicles from a dealership with a hometown feel. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and 2-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Squirrel Williams takes the toss over the left side. Squirrel under the end zone. Touchdown, Baylor.
It's time for our weekly segment with Travis Roeder of Sikkim365.com.
Through the air, Chapin into the end zone. Wide open for the touchdown is Hal Presley. 38 yards. Baylor pads the lead.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Tom Albers, staying in touch with you and your money through these difficult and changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Mondays just after 5 o'clock, Travis Roeder, Sikkim365.com football analyst, will join us. Travis, thanks for your time with Craig, David, Paul Catalina as well. Who other than those who scored touchdowns or some things that are glitz and glamour, who stood out to you the most on Saturday evening?
Ooh, great question. I guess, as you said, other than the guys who scored, I was very pleased with what I saw from the wide receiver room in general. I'll just kind of give a quick shout out to them before I move on to some other guys. But, Monterey Baldwin and Hal Presley, I think it was really, really important, as we talked about last week when we were getting ready for the game, that you started to see kind of a semblance of a rapport building between Chapin and those guys. So I felt like Hal really kind of looked like he was stepping into that Tyquan Thornton role. And Monterey Baldwin, as Dave Aranda said in his press conference today, they very much believe in kind of building scheme around players. And they've said, we've adjusted a lot of what we do on offense to feature him. And I think you saw that with him having a long touchdown on the post and then, a long touchdown in the jet sweep game. And then he received a couple other receptions as well. I guess just a few other kind of random guys just thinking about a couple of fun ones for me. I was one of my favorite recruits Baylor's had in the last few years is the true freshman tight end, Kelsey Johnson out of Red Oak. And, he was playing with the ones a lot. We talked about how Baylor has a couple of great returning tight ends in Ben Sims and Drake Dabney. But what we saw this past Saturday is that Kelsey's kind of basically right up with those two. I mean, sometimes he was in there for Sims, sometimes he was in there for Dabney. And he didn't make a lot of flashy plays. As you said, I already kind of talked about the flashy guys, but Kelsey's one of those guys that if you look a lot on those plays, whether it was him pass protecting when they took the deep shot, whether it was him in the, blocking in the run game for whenever they, were able to spring free some big runs, he was a guy that's just, for a guy like me, I love versatile players. And it was really fun watching Kelsey.
Travis, the offense looked like they knew what they were doing together. I know it's Albany, but was there maybe a bit of a sigh of relief that it did look like the skill position guys had been doing it for a little while?
Yes, of course. I mean, as I said, you really basically can't have a good passing offense in really any level of any level of football if your wide receivers and your quarterback just don't have a good sense of rapport with one another. And that's, the quarterback has to be able to trust the wide receiver to break when he's supposed to break. He has to be able to throw the ball with anticipation, knowing where guys are going to be. And so, I think that kind of solid trio at the top of those sophomores, I saw Jerry Hill put out an article today that was very well titled and explained by saying, this trio of sophomores, that's Seth Jones, Monterey Baldwin, and Hal Presley. I think they all showed kind of, not a finished product, no doubt. I think especially Hal is a guy that we're going to look back on in probably 8 or 9 weeks and see that he's playing at a total another level by the end of the season. But I think you saw the foundation being laid. That tells you they can get to where they want to go by the end of the year. Of course, they needed to be ready for this week as well, but you always see growth throughout the season.
What was maybe not as sharp, or there wasn't like a lot of surprises in that game the other night. That was about what we were supposed to see, I think. But what were some maybe things that stood out that weren't as sharp or as in focus as you expected them to be?
Nothing, honestly, was not as I think it's all about expectations, right, Craig? And I think week one you expect guys to miss some assignments, to just kind of goof up on a couple of plays, because that's just this was basically the last scrimmage for Baylor of the preseason. And I think that's what's wild. Craig, I know you and I talked about this briefly, I think, but at the game, it's just wild that there was a Notre Dame, Ohio State top 5 matchup going on, because you can see if you watch any of these early games, just, guys, it takes a while in football to really kind of get your feet underneath you. And so, I mean, I think there were a couple of instances. I know, like when Baylor had the failed third down conversion, and then they went for it on the next fourth down and then failed on the very next play as well. You look back there and you see basically just on one play, it was the left guard that missed an assignment. And then on the next play, it was the tight end. So, it wasn't like a wholesale. I'd be a lot more worried if it just appeared like the offensive line can't block or something like that. But when you kind of look back and see that it's just one or two guys, missing some assignments that are easily coachable, I think when you look at Dave Aranda in that press conference, he was very clearly pleased with the overall effort that the team played with. And I think overall things are looking good. It's just a matter of cleaning things up like any team has to do after week 1.
By the way, on the chat room, AF Blue 82, he said his article, Travis's article, that spotlighted players with cut-ups of certain plays was awesome. And I got to tell you, sometimes those long write-ups about X's and O's I can get zoned out pretty quickly, but having the cut-ups makes it so much easier to understand and follow, and I got to agree with him.
Well, thank you all. I appreciate that. I mean, I'm trying to remember. I think it was, shout out to my wife. I think she actually taught me how to do that. She had to figure out, she's a professor, and she had to figure out how to screen capture some stuff for school, I think, one time. I think this out went anyway. And she was like, you could use the software to just screen cap the videos and make it a lot easier. And I was like, wow. And ever since then, things have really changed. So I guess it's really it always comes down to the spouse partnership, huh?
By the way, Travis will be joining me tonight on the big one too, our first one of the year, and certainly excited to have Travis in here for that. But Travis, as you look ahead to BYU, this game is completely different. You're talking about just a ton of talent on that BYU side, a ton of experience, and naturally they're always older than everybody else because of the mission trips they do. And this was a pretty good game for most of it last year before Baylor broke it open. What do you expect to see in Provo?
Well, I'm not sure what you're talking about, Paul. I think Albany and BYU are pretty much on the same level. No, I mean,
they call Albany the BYU of New York.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you watch them, it's just so clear, like that whole aspect that you talked about, Paul, with them just always being the oldest team in college football, even if they don't have the most experience, they're literally the oldest team in college football. I think that matters a lot. It's kind of like, how some of these high schools are set up to where the high school system is running basically the same kind of schematic system from like junior high onwards. I think that kind of gives them some benefit by the time these guys become juniors and seniors. It's like, even though they were away on the mission trip, presumably they're somehow still kind of involved with football in some way or the other. And I think by the time they get that old, like they just know what they're doing. They're able to get away with not having as good of athletes as most teams they play. And so, I mean, I think they're a team that you have to beat them. They're not going to beat themselves. They're not going to make a bunch of mistakes. You just have to line up across from them and out-execute them. And that's what's really exciting for me in this game. After a week 1 where you expect a bunch of mistakes, and I think you saw a handful of those for Baylor this past week, they really got to be on their P's and Q's this week because, like I said, they're going to have to take victory from BYU's hands. BYU's not going to hand it to them.
Travis, enjoy it. Thank you very much. With us on with us on Mondays just after 5, and also with the pregame show with the keys to the game. We appreciate that, and also good luck with the big one too with Paul later on today. Anything else? Thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time. Travis Roeder, Sikkim365.com, college football analyst, and I'm telling you, those cut-ups are huge in being able to kind of look at what he's talking about and follow exactly what he is saying.
Yeah, I want to learn how to do that, but not even for that reason, for just other reasons to screen capture video. I think that could come in handy, so I need to learn how to do that. But, I mean, that definitely does help. Some people are visual learners, but when you're talking about something as complicated as, football and schemes and, personnel and all these different things, all these different numbers that are being thrown at you and all these different phrases and terms, to have that thrown at you, but then to have like the painting of, okay, exactly what that looks like is, for me, someone like myself, very helpful. So I can definitely see where a lot of people are enjoying that, and it's a good feature of the site. As far as the Big 12, I mean, you're going to have the Big 1-2 tonight. For those that don't know, is going to cover the Big 12. But everybody gets out of the opening weekend with a win, save West Virginia. And I think even with West Virginia, you still feel okay. Obviously didn't want to lose to your rival in Pitt, especially after such a long break. And, JT Daniels, I think, played well enough to win that game, and some others did as well. But ultimately, kudos to Pitt for that. But, yeah, outside of that, I thought it was a pretty good weekend for the Big 12. We finally got to see some big debuts, whether that be, a Venables at OU or a Dylan Gabriel or a Ewers at Texas or, wherever you were looking. It was a pretty headline-filled and intriguing weekend overall, and I'm still in the same spot I was in prior to the games, which was I don't know who the heck who's going to win this league. Like, I think Baylor's got a great shot at it, but I also think Oklahoma State and Oklahoma and Texas and all have chances. I think there's teams that are going to be better than expected. Maybe that's a Texas Tech now with the Donovan Smith move, and especially if they get a win over Houston this weekend. So, yeah, just glad to have it fired up, glad to have some evidence, but the evidence so far speaks pretty well for the Big 12, but I know it's only opening weekend.
Well, they were 9-1. I believe that's right. They lost the game to Pitt, which is a ranked team, and I think that was the only ranked team the Big 12 played. This week it's different. You have Brigham Young on the road. Different. Obviously, Alabama down in Austin. You have Houston and Texas Tech. So it will be a very nice test this weekend for the Big 12 Conference. 5:18 is the time. We, of course, at the bottom of the hour, we'll have David Hellman of Fox Sports on the Cowboys. Here's a note. Do you have the Max Olson tweet, Garrett, that I sent you yesterday? How about this note? LSU's Jaden Daniels makes it 61 transfer quarterbacks who earned starting jobs, including 40 who transferred in the past offseason. That's a chunk. That's a one-third, basically just a little bit less than one-third of the FBS teams. That used to be who transferred. You'd have others as well. But remember, the grad transfers were mainly the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And now 61 transfer quarterbacks started this past weekend, 40 who transferred in the past few months.
Yeah, I think the grad transfer was quarterbacks who weren't going to play in the NFL primarily. Yeah. That was a lot of what those guys were. It's like, I'm going to keep playing college for another year. It was a lot of those grad transfers. But, yeah, I mean, the transfer portal has certainly opened it up in ways we couldn't even have imagined. I mean, to think that just a year ago you'd have told people Caleb Williams would be playing for USC and JT Daniels would be at West Virginia, and Jalen Daniels would be at LSU, and Bo Nix would be at Oregon, and so on and so forth. It's just Dylan Gabriel would be at OU, Gary Bohannon's at USF. I mean, it could go on and on and on and on. And,
well, there are games across the country that both the quarterbacks are. I mean, just not unique to both quarterback transfers.
Yeah, Keaton Slovis and Pitt in the backyard brawl was like that. Yeah.
Last night, both transfers.
Yeah,
Jordan Travis from Louisville. So.
And I thought, Jaden Daniels in the rapport, and Tim brought this up, the rapport and so did Travis, the rapport between your quarterback and wide receivers. A lot of pressure on him. He came from Arizona State. I thought, though, when the game was on the line, all of a sudden the light came on. Maybe just because it got frenetic, I don't know. I was feeling kind of a little bit for him because it was tough. And then the wide receiver, your star, as Brando said, starts becoming kind of a diva.
Yeah. He was absolutely being a diva in that game, and I understand the frustration level of Boutte, but you just can't do that. And it was if anything, I don't know how much of a distraction it was. It was distracting for me watching the game. I was just like, what's going to happen here in a second? Is he going to start swinging on Daniels or what? He's going to walk off the sideline Antonio Brown? Yeah. What's going to go on here?
Well, it was clear that Florida State was accepting of Daniels being able to run the ball and that be their offense. Yeah. Because the first time it happened was 25 yards, and I was like, oh, well, here they go. And then it happened several more times, but if they realized, look, if we can, trip them up after 3 yards and make it 3rd and 7, then, the coverage that they were running was clearly working, especially on Boutte at that time. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like you think. Like that's what I was kind of weird about. Like, does he really think that Jaden Daniels is not trying to throw him the ball?
Right.
Like,
right.
Jaden Daniels is back there. Jared Verse is just like climbing down his throat the whole night long. You think he really doesn't want to throw the ball to you? Like, no, man. He would like nothing more than to complete 20 passes in a row just to you. Not even to mention Jeray Jenkins, who's fantastic, by the way, and some of the other guys they have. Believe me, he wants that to happen. It's the other team is doing a good job.
So who's the guy that blocked the extra point for FSU?
Verse blocked the field goal, and
Verse. Okay, now where did he play? Where did he play last year?
He played at Albany.
Isn't that amazing?
Mm-hmm.
And he was a monster at Albany. Put up huge numbers at Albany, and then all of a sudden ends up playing for Florida State. So they've hit on him. Although it's game one, it looks like he's going to be hard to deal with. It's kind of like Baylor last year when they hit on Siaka Ika. Everyone heard about him. We thought about him, and then he became he's a great player last year for them.
Yeah.
So,
but by the way, so we have a couple minutes here before we got to get to David Hellman. I think we need to get into our trauma.
I can't because my trauma is going to cost me a lot more money than yours.
So dramatic. Come on.
So we had to do Smokey and I. Like Craig was here on Friday, as you guys know, because Smokey and I had to go to Odessa to do Midway versus Odessa Permian
high school football.
It's a long way away. You know Odessa Permian from Friday Night Lights. They very much own that. So on the way there, our flight was stuck on the runway for about an hour and a half. All right, no big deal. Craig and Grace are doing the show. We got there in plenty of time. We still had 4 hours before we had to be at the stadium. Check into the hotel, fine. Get to the stadium.
Everything's great.
Everything's working. Everything's great. The people could not have been nicer and more helpful. Everything's fine. Torrential downpour, no lightning. Stops about 40 minutes before broadcast time. We're like, okay, well, that kind of worked out. No. Apparently in West Texas, the rain comes first, and then the lightning just hangs around later. Yeah. So 8 minutes before kickoff, we get an hour and change lightning delay. Not a big deal. It's not like we're
not going anywhere.
We're not going anywhere until the morning. Like, we've got a hotel. We're going to get up and fly it back. Wake up in the morning at 7:30.
Who did?
Both of us at the same time.
I woke up at 7:30 to my alarm.
Yeah, we both woke up.
5 strong hours.
Yeah.
Text message.
We both have a text message from Southwest Airlines at 3:15 in the morning, which is when you would answer a text message from somebody you're not trying to drunkenly hook up with. So 3:15 in the morning, get this text saying your flight's been canceled and you've been rebooked on a flight at 6 o'clock. Well, we have to be back here a little before 4 o'clock so we can be presentable for our pregame show, which was
presentable.
I mean,
but you were kind of just laying there looking at stuff in bed.
No, I was awake.
Okay. Well, that's what I said, looking at stuff. And I said, our flight has been changed.
No, I mean, woke up, you said, do you have this? Like, I woke up at the same time the alarm came off, and I got up, and you said, do you have this text? And I looked, I was, oh, my God. And
because we're 350 miles away from Waco.
Yeah, and West Texas is a long way away, so we have to go to the airport, extend the rental car. We had a Volkswagen Tiguan, which is not a car.
Ever heard of that one, Craig?
Yeah.
I've never heard of it.
Not a great car. So we are driving to get to about Abilene, which is not quite halfway between Odessa and Waco, but it's the biggest halfway point.
We're on our way back to Waco. I think we're getting too complicated.
Once you get back through Abilene, there's nothing. Like, there is no other thing between Abilene and Waco that you're going to cross. The oil light comes on. We pull over at a Dollar General and literally the middle of a field. That was it. It was the Dollar General and nothing. And check the oil, and there was it looked like the dipstick just scraped some on the way out. 2 quarts low. So we were this close to being stranded in a rental car in the middle of nowhere. We get to Hamilton, Texas, which is about an hour from here. They're having some sort of street festival, and it's a 1-stoplight town, and that 1 stoplight is backed up by 15 minutes. Then we found a way around that, but a trucker tried to murder us. We got through that. We finally got here, but we made it, and it was by the skin of our teeth.
We did the show. We did the show, and then I realized on the way back that my car is at Love Field because that's where we flew out of, and so I had to drive to Dallas after the pregame show to go retrieve my car, turn it in the rental car. And then my trip back was a conversation with a DPS officer. But we're here, and it was an amazing weekend. Craig and Grayson did a great job on Friday. Pre-game show went well thanks to the CW channel this Saturday night. Our pregame show, Baylor football pregame, will be on KWTX, the local CBS affiliate.
When do you think Midway's going to play at Permian again?
Well,
let me put it this way. If they do, I don't know if I'll be a part of that broadcast. They've just kind of had to put this thing together.
Yeah,
they were supposed to play there 2 years ago, COVID. So,
yeah, I'm glad I got to see it.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Their in-game entertainment, for those of you, the Permian, Friday Night Lights, Buzz Bissinger, the store, all that, their pregame entertainment, the light show, the PA guy, it was as good as I've ever seen it from any high school, and I've been doing that for 42 years.
To me, it's how I feel about the movie Avatar. Like, I'm glad I saw it, but I need to watch it again. I get it.
I think I just know the story so well from the book. And then, they obviously did Hollywood stuff with the movie that, you didn't really have to do. But they decided to go that route. With Avatar, I still have never seen it, and I do not care one iota about this movie coming out.
Yeah.
It's like all the trendy stuff, like the Marvel movies or the Star Wars or like every brand you can name. I have some bit of interest or a lot of interest. I've never understood the Avatar thing,
well,
man.
It was a cool movie because of the technology, but it's one of those things that after you start thinking about things, it's like, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
I don't know what James Cameron's thinking. But yeah, it was cool. I did want to walk through. I told Jacob I wanted to walk to like the parking lot of the drive-in and point with a guy with my ring. Go, get you one of these. Get you one of these.
When we come back, David Hellman, Fox Sports, Cowboys in the NFL. That season starts Thursday night. Cowboys open Sunday against Tampa Bay. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. The Allen Samuels dealership, Loop 340 and Highway 6 in Waco, is you drive by some, and because of how things are with distribution, there's emptiness, and not completely, but there's gaps of cars and vehicles. Their dealership constantly has arriving cars, new arriving vehicles every day. Ted Teague, the general manager, and they've started yet another month. They went through what they did, of course, with the Labor Day sales event and so much more. And there are still some incentives and discounts available through September the 6th. That's tomorrow. So if you drop by the dealership or go to AllenSamuelsDCJ.com, there are still incentives and discounts available. For example, on the Wagoneer 2 or 3 Series, on the Ram trucks, and, of course, also with what they have with Jeep and the models and brands they have with the cars there, and SUVs. Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340, east of 84 in Waco.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Collision Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season, and BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Collision Ford.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Welcome back to Sick'em 365 Radio.
First and goal. He's found 5 different targets. He's going to hand it off. It's Pollard, and he's across for the Dallas touchdown.
It's time for our weekly segment with David Hellman of FoxSports.com.
David Hellman, Mondays, and we are finally here. First week of the NFL season, Thursday night game, and then, of course, Cowboys and Buccaneers on Sunday evening. David, whose offensive line is more of a mess, Dallas or Tampa Bay?
Oh, wow, that's a really good question. I guess, I cover the Cowboys, and I think so. I've spent more time watching them try to play without Tyron Smith. So, I know the Bucs don't have Ryan Jensen, but I also know Tom Brady is absolutely amazing at getting the ball out quickly and negating offensive line play. So, just by virtue of that, I think I would feel better if I was a Bucs fan than a Cowboys fan.
David, Jason Peters signing is official. He said it's going to take a couple weeks to get ready. Do you think that when he's ready, they will put him in the starting lineup?
I think that completely depends on Tyler Smith. Not to punt on answering, but I've seen this happen before. You sat there in 2016 saying Dak's got to hold the rope for a few weeks until Tony comes back, and then obviously Tony's the starter. But Dak took it and ran with it. So if Tyler Smith just is absolutely the star of the season and is playing at a crazy level, kind of like what we saw from Micah Parsons last year, I don't think you pull him, but I don't really expect that to happen. I think Tyler Smith is going to have some growing pains. I think give it 3 weeks, and I would guess Jason Peters takes over. But honestly, hopefully not for the Cowboys, because that means Tyler Smith is playing really well.
Do you think he could, if Tyler Smith is playing well at tackle, but Connor McGovern is struggling at guard, could Jason Peters play guard?
I'm not going to ask a 40-year-old man who's never done that in the NFL to. Jason Peters he came out of basically retirement for the right money and the right job. You're not asking Jason Peters to kick around and experiment. If anything, if you really feel that strongly about it, I think you kick Tyler Smith back inside the guard. But no, I don't think Jason Peters is coming out of retirement to try a new position.
Is he the largest human being you've ever seen or not pads, but in a football practice field?
Oh man, that's a really good question. He's got to be up there. Some of these OTs are really, really big. I'm trying to think. There are a couple and they weren't even necessarily great players, but I've been around some D linemen in my day it was kind of hard to believe that they were that big. But yeah, Jason Peters is definitely in the conversation.
David Hellman, Fox Sports on the Cowboys NFL opening week. Sick on 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
David, what do you expect to see out of Zeke Elliott this year?
Honestly, if he's healthy, I mean, I think this is a big bounce back year for Zeke. And I will say it's a bummer for him that Tyron got hurt. And we'll see how good the offensive line looks now that they have to shuffle it. But if they get above average line play, and like the one thing we know about Tyler Smith is that he's a very powerful kid. He should help them in the run game. We know Jason Peters is still reliable against the run. If anything, he's probably better against the run than as a pass blocker, just because pass blocking is so much about quick twitch and fast athleticism, whereas run blocking is a lot more about power, which again, you mentioned his size. So with all of that said, I really think like if Zeke's healthy, I think that he could be the guy that we got used to seeing from 2016 to 2018. I mean, I think people forget how good he looked last year before he hurt the knee. Now, the problem is he's getting up there by running back years, and he's had a lot of mileage put on his body. I mean, the Cowboys have kind of worn him down. So is it realistic to think that he'll stay healthy? Maybe not. But if he can, I really do think he could flirt with 1,300 yards.
If it's not the tight end and it's not CeeDee Lamb and it's 3rd and 12 and you got to keep the sticks moving, you got to throw the ball to a wide receiver, who do you throw it to?
Oh, does it have to be a wide receiver? Can I throw it to Zeke or Tony? I mean, gee, honestly, I mean, like I'm sort of kidding, but not really. I mean, I'd love to say Jalen Tolbert, but he didn't really show me anything during the preseason that makes me feel super confident. Hopefully, you know, we've seen plenty of times guys that have great training camps sometimes have terrible seasons, and guys that have terrible training camps sometimes have great seasons. So hopefully Jalen Tolbert can really emerge as a trustworthy option. But if not, shoot, based on what I've seen so far, I'd probably say Jake Ferguson, honestly. I thought, you know, he's had a couple really nice preseason games. He's got some impressive run after the catch ability. But yeah, I mean, it speaks to how thin the Cowboys are that's what we're talking about.
Is the wide receiver position the one that can fool you the most because there's so much, you know, there's so much 7-on-7 or whatever the passing drills against DBs. Is that one that can almost fool you a little bit?
Yeah, easily. We talk about it every year. Not even a little bit, a lot of it. I mean, it's such an easy position to evaluate because they're throwing the ball. You're not really paying attention to see if the pass rush gets home. Sometimes they're not even a pass rush if you're playing 7-on-7. So, and then, yeah, all that stuff is designed to favor the receiver. Like, obviously, DBs are at a disadvantage in practice. And on top of that, guys in practice get 8 big opportunities of practice to make a catch. I mean, maybe you have a drop and then 3 plays later, you have a great catch. Well, it doesn't work that way in games. Get 1 opportunity, or maybe you get 3 for the entire game and you've got to cash in on all of them. So yeah, that's why I always try to tell people, like, I really don't care if a guy had a great camp because training camp is designed to favor those guys.
All right, David, let's get into it. Our alma maters squared off last night in a game that was just dumb. I mean, it was just the way it ended and the way all that happened was nuts. What were your emotions, thoughts, feelings about LSU last night?
I told you, dude. I told you like a week or 2 ago. You're like, oh, we're terrible. We don't have a shot. I was like, you think we're good? We're below 500 for the last 2 years. Like, that's the, like, honestly, I'm annoyed, and I get it. Like, people don't like Brian Kelly, so they're going to dogpile on him. But it's like people are like, oh, people really paid Brian Kelly $100 million for this, and it's like, yeah, they paid Brian Kelly to come and clean up a program that's been a mess for the last 2 years. Like, I mean, 2019 was an eternity ago by football standards, and they sure as hell looked like that last night. I mean, sloppy. What the hell's going on with the receivers? How is Keyshawn Boutte one of the 5 best receivers in America, and he didn't get targeted until the second half of the game? I mean, that's inexcusable. Special teams errors, like, I mean, it goes on and on. Like, it was one of those things where it was easier to stomach the loss because they didn't deserve to win. Where you're just like, okay, like maybe we almost snuck one out of the fire, but like we got outplayed really for the entirety of the game. So, yeah, it sucked. It was painful, but not overly surprising. So I'm not gonna beat Brian Kelly up for it too much, but they clearly have a lot of work to do because the schedule doesn't get any easier when you get into the meat of the conference play.
Isn't college football just amazing, though?
Oh, it's the best. It's the best show on earth, and that's I love the NFL too, but I spend so much of my time. So many people, like, especially the Cowboys, have this big national fan base, so you wind up talking to all these people that don't really pay attention to college football, and they see it as sloppy and like kids not knowing how to play football. And I'm like, yeah, the beauty is in the chaos. Like, it's so much fun because you never know what type of insanity is going to happen. And yeah, I mean, it sucks to be on the losing end of something as crazy as what happened last night, but man, like, how entertaining is that?
Yeah. David, tell us about your new gig at Fox.
Yeah.
I actually, it debuts tomorrow. They, in their infinite wisdom, they asked me to come out here and do the new iteration of Speak for Yourself with Emmanuel Acho. He's a good buddy of mine from back in the day. We worked at the Cowboys together for a couple years, and so I'll still be writing and talking about the Cowboys, but I'll be in LA for at least the next 5 or 6 months, talking mainly NFL, but all things sports and definitely all things football. So come find me on FS1 starting tomorrow afternoon.
So I'm curious, do they fly you out to the studios? Is that's just going to be, they take care of all that, set you up, and then you go back to Dallas?
Well, so that's the funny thing. I mean, a lot of people do that. Yeah, like in the TV world, a lot of people, you know, you'll fly out on like Thursday and fly back on Monday, or like whatever your schedule is, or like, you know, if you do the games, like, Jimmy Johnson will fly out here on like Friday and go back on Monday or whatever. But in my case, I mean, I'm doing daily. I'll be on Monday to Friday. So they relocated me here. I mean, I've still got my place in Dallas, kind of TBD on what the long-term plan looks like, but I will be in California until the Super Bowl probably. So yeah, it came together really quickly, but it's been fun.
Your personality, your knowledge, your insight, and the way you communicate will be perfect. Thank you for your time. We appreciate you on Mondays.
I really appreciate that, fellas. Thanks.
You too. David Hellman, Fox Sports, and climbing into that FS1 studio.
Yeah, and he's got such a great sense of humor and the way he bounces off things. And yeah, I'm not at all surprised that his rise at Fox has been meteoric, like just really fast. He's great. He's awesome. So really, really happy. And we've had him on the show going back years now. So,
yeah. I mean, back when he first started at DallasCowboys.com, and I think a lot of times, as you said, his sense of humor, his knowledge, he's not afraid to absolutely blast something if it needs to be, and also has a unique view at some things that maybe aren't as negative and what might be positive as well. Cowboys and Buccaneers, Sunday evening, Tom Brady and Dak Prescott on NBC. This is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. If you have something your doctor wants to get a better look at, if they ask about getting an MRI, they know about Ideal MRI, but you can suggest that to them as well. We've told you the stories about people who have been told that they have to get an MRI wherever they are, at a hospital system or whatever, and those are great people too. But Ideal MRI, $497 or less every single MRI. $497 or less. And I've been in their state-of-the-art machine 3 or 4 different times, located in the Central Texas Marketplace, just off the southern part of Waco on I-35. And in the Central Texas Marketplace, you can get an MRI for $497 or less. And a lot of times the average, I've said this for a long time, is $1,100. There have been a couple of stories about a couple of patients that were told it was going to be $2,000, one $1,600. Both of them got an MRI for $497, and one of them got it for less because the insurance was also to kick in a little bit. Dr. Rob Maxey and his staff, they'll find out what is wrong. They'll find out what the pain is and why it hurts, a muscle, a ligament, your shoulder, your knee, at idealmri.com.
Cars priced right both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Have Richard Car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Have Richard Car in Waco, Texas.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
Top 5 Coaches Hot Seat Meter, Volume 1. So these are probably mostly the guys who came in with hot seats, but just based on the temperature right now. So I developed a system of hot seats. So we'll start with the bottom and then move to the top. Number 5, is it hot in here? Andy Avalos. I still think it's early for him.
No, it's hot.
Is this broiler hot?
No,
it's hot.
I mean, he's not even barely into year 2 yet. But, I mean, they are not Boise State. They are not what they were supposed to resume being. That's a big first hire for Jeremiah Dickey. We know him. He was Mac's right-hand man here. And, his big AD gig and big first football coach hire. But I'd say as of right now, you need to check the temperature and see what's going on. It's not like, hey, he's out the door tomorrow or even the end of this year necessarily, but there is cause for concern.
Well, yeah, and look, they got handled by Oregon State. By Oregon State teams.
Oregon State deserves some credit, too. Yeah. Like, I mean, there are some things to like about them, but go on.
But, I mean, getting handled. Like, I'm just saying, you didn't lose a close game to a Pac-12 team. You got handled by them, and you've been building your brand on the fact that we're just as good as these people.
We can beat them when we play them. They won't play us that often. We have to do this. We deserve to be at the next level. And in this like college football playoff expansion, you got to win games. I mean, you just got to win. All this is coming out. You need that momentum for your program, especially with the things they're trying to do to really solidify there. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I don't want to make and I know you weren't doing this, make everything about the playoff. But what you're saying, though, is that in an era where realignment's going on, and it's like, hey, you better jump on the boat while it's passing you. You don't want to be bad when you're Boise State football, and that's really your calling card is how good you've been and why you deserve a spot at the table. And and obviously, yes, an expanded playoff. You now have an opportunity to potentially get into that. But yeah, mostly realignment related. If anything, this is the worst time to not be playing very well and being Boise State football.
Yeah. Number 4, he plays tonight. Do you smell smoke, Jeff Collins?
The house is ashes as far as I'm concerned.
And I only put him here just because they haven't played yet. So giving him the opportunity to maybe shock the world and beat Clemson tonight, which I don't think is going to happen, but maybe they do. That's why he's here. But there's been nothing like Georgia Tech is, as the ACC goes, like they don't even bear mentioning. Like they just don't.
What's happened there?
I mean, what they did when they fired Paul Johnson, they lost what made them unique.
Yes, the option.
The option. And then instead of, okay, I get it, you can't really run the option. You're not a military academy. You should be better at Georgia Tech than that. And they have a pretty good history there going back, a long ways. But even in the late 90s, they were good. Joe Hamilton was a quarterback there. It was fantastic. They've had some good teams, but they did not really invest in somebody who could change things all that much.
I think that they got caught up in, just like all the mess like everybody else has, whether that be a COVID thing or whether that be, just dealing with all the other outside noise. And I also think that maybe they just didn't make the right hire.
Yeah.
I mean, they know the kind of when things are, I mean, come on. How are they going to fix that? They're going to probably go make another hire at some point. That's really, that's what it is ultimately. But yeah, he's a Temple guy. He's a Matt Rule guy, so to speak, or at least affiliated.
Yeah.
So you thought he'd go down there and basically do what Rule did at Baylor. But, that wasn't exactly that way, but, close to it was kind of the story. He would bring the Temple toughness and the brand and all that kind of stuff, and it's not worked out. And I think that tonight is one of those games where you had this great weekend, and like Clemson versus somebody else might have just been a bit more appetizing because I think the mood about Georgia Tech is just so down right now. There's not really much hope there, but we'll see. Maybe tonight they can change that. But yeah, I smell a lot of smoke with him.
How many programs in college football have won a national championship since 1990? Because they did.
Yeah.
Bobby Ross. 32 years ago. I know it's been a long, long time ago for a lot of teams.
Probably 16 or so.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would have been 6.
Yeah. Number 3, call the fire department. Jeff Scott in South Florida just got hammered by BYU. And it's just, there's something not working. That Jeff Scott was a great offensive coordinator at Clemson. You thought it was his time, but maybe this just isn't going to, they just don't have the dudes.
Dude, this is not, I don't even think this is a maybe. I think this is clear cut. Like they are going to have to do something. They are not very good at all. They are not a good football team. So yeah, I think that, barring some miraculous turnaround, USF, I mean, you talk about teams that in the midst of realignment and uncertainty, they are one of those programs, absolutely, along with Boise State, along with San Diego State, along with the ones that were just ushered in, or will be ushered in, next year to the Big 12, along with SMU. Like all the teams you think of that are right on that fringe area of being a part of the club or whatever. I mean, USF's got things working in their favor. But what's not working in their favor right now is how atrocious their football team is. And, yeah, they're going to have to make a change. It's just not very good.
Yeah. Number 2, evacuate the building. Scott Satterfield at Louisville. They got it really taken to them by Syracuse. When your coach is on the hot seat and gets it handed to him by another coach who's on not as hot a seat, but Dino Babers needs to do something at Syracuse, your seat gets real hot. And Scott Satterfield, Malik Cunningham didn't look good. That whole thing didn't look good. Now, look, they've got time to turn it around, but he's already, lost the AD there that hired him. All these things have gone against Scott Satterfield. I have a friend, Chad, on Facebook, sends me a message all the time. A guy watches the show, big Louisville guy, and said that the temperature in that part of Kentucky right now is, when it comes to Scott Satterfield, is not very welcoming.
No, that's a massive red flag, losing the way that they did, to start the season. That's just, you had concerns, I think. People had concerns, going in, but I think all your concerns were like, here we are, nice to see you, and we're back. And, yeah, that's not good.
You know who they play next? At UCF Friday night.
Yeah.
Then, who knows? Florida State, week 3 at home. All right, that's number 2.
Yeah, number 1. Towering Inferno, Scott Frost. And they wound up putting some distance between North Dakota State and all that.
North Dakota State, they would have lost if it would have been North Dakota.
But North Dakota, sorry. North Dakota. But the first half of that game was the hangover from Northwestern.
Long trip.
And this is this just has to stop eventually. Like, they just have to move on, and it's getting
October 2nd. Remember the date.
October 2nd.
That's when his buyout changes. Davalos is in year 2. Leave him alone. Of the ones, Long, Collins, Satterfield, or Frost.
You mean Scott? Just Scott.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Scott, Collins, Satterfield, or Frost. Are we going to see a Coach Wells situation like at Texas Tech almost midway through the year with how many of those?
I think you're going to see it a lot this year. I think you're going to see it again. I really do. I think last year's coaching cycle will be again, and Nebraska being the biggest brand name of all those 3 wouldn't surprise me to be the first, much like Clay Helton at USC last year.
Jump on whoever
because you have to, even if you don't get a jump on maybe negotiating, which I'm sure USC did with Lincoln Riley, but you also get a jump on telling the recruits that things are going to change, and that's what it's really about.
Yeah, I just don't know if the massive dominoes are in place to have a whole Lincoln Riley, Brian Kelly, all that type of situation. But, I'm with you on Avalos and Boise State. He needs some time. Maybe he's a young coach and all that coming over from Oregon. But, that's definitely one that you at least peg and you go, okay, this is one to keep monitor of. But, not the same situation as the other guys on this list. Frost, that's a foregone conclusion. Collins, I think, is a foregone conclusion. Scott's, I think, a foregone conclusion. And Satterfield, I don't know enough to know, whether that's all the way down the tracks or not, but I definitely feel that way about the other ones. Barring some miraculous turnarounds, that's pretty much writing on the wall.
All right, good stuff, Paul. One of these days, there's going to be a hot seat for coaches, and Frost's name won't be on it because he either pulled off a miracle or he's finally gone. Not finally, that's not fair to say. For Emery Winter and Jack McKenzie, Jacob Wilson and Garrett Ross, those behind the scene that we try to make sure we let you know about every single day are amazing at what they allow us to do and how they make us look so good and sound so good. Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak. Sports Tonight, 10:30 and every weeknight. Sports Tonight on the CW channel. This show condensed. I'm David Smoak. Thanks to you, our sponsors, and everyone else. Good night, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.